of the Between Trials podcast. Already messing up words. Nice. So today we have a few guests with us. We're going to be talking about some of the new PTB content coming out, and we have a few guests with us. We have, first off, I'll introduce them one by one. If you guys don't know me, I am OhTofu. I mean, you're in my channel, so I'm assuming you probably know me. But if you're here from someone else's shout out, I'm just a dumb nerd that plays killer a lot. There's not really anything special about me. I don't really have much to say. Introducing yourself is hard anyway, which is why I'm going to introduce our fellow people for them. I'm going to start out with Otzdarva. My boy Otzdarva, who is like literally the Spanish powerhouse of DBD, the YouTube fandom star, and loser of Sandbag with Friends twice running. How's it feel? Otzdarva, to lose your own event twice running?
Well, no one can accuse me of setting it up now.
True. Good point.
That's at least one good thing out of it.
All right, moving on. We have ScottJund.
OhTofu, I got this here.
Okay.
Just a dumb nerd that plays killer a lot. There you go.
Nice. You already got that sound? That's amazing.
I'll be doing this a lot.
What I was going to say about Scott was Scott, in my opinion, completely revolutionized the way that people play Huntress in DBD. When Huntress first came out, literally did shit with her that like no one else was able to do, like hitting cross maps, playing maze tiles in crazy ways, running double windup with Tinker every single game, you know, things like that. So he really changed the way that people played the game, and he's kind of a big deal in the community, and glad to have him on. And lastly, we have Ussylis, who is our resident entitled survivor main. He is, we kind of have a lot of killer mains here, but he is our survivor main of the group, self-proclaimed best survivor NA, but actually really good player, very knowledgeable, and does a lot of work on YouTube, and would highly recommend checking him out if you guys have not already. I kind of want to get right into talking about the different topics. I think we're going to start this one out with the Doctor Rework. If you guys have not heard about the Doctor Rework, basically, I can't really go into full detail about what old Doctor did, but some of the biggest changes are they changed his static field. So the way that Doctor used to work is when he would have treatment mode and punishment mode. And when he was in treatment mode, he would have a thing called static field, where you would basically, while you're in treatment, anybody that was in your terror radius would slowly raise up in madness. And they changed that now. And now instead of that, he has an ability called static blast, where you do a long charge. You reduce your movement speed by a lot, but you do like a 3 or 4 second charge, and then anyone in your terror radius instantly goes up a tier and they scream. I think it's a really interesting change. I was curious to know your guys' opinions on it. If you guys think, is this a better or a worse ability than the static field?
You breathe first. Go for it.
You breathe first, so you volunteered. We all heard it.
I'm gonna say something. I'm seeing a trend with the changes that I'm not. I think I understand why it happens, but I'm not sure I like it. And it first happened with Freddy. If you guys remember, Freddy was reworked last year. Overall, it was a good move. I think the Doctor will be the same. I think it will be a good change. From playing him, he seems a little better and nicer to play. But there's this trend that is a bit concerning, where everything that's unique about killers, they're trying to streamline it and make it a bit more understandable for newer players, and for them to share more mechanics with other killers. And this has been ongoing for for the last year or so, I believe. But the Doctor had this unique ability of using his terror radius to make people scream. No other killer could build up anything with their terror radius passively. That was unique to him. And so did the old Freddy, being able to see auras of people outside of your terror radius when they were asleep. There's all these unique things to each killer that were kind of charming and were kind of interesting. And though we're moving away from those things to things that are more predictable and easier and more consistent across. And I don't know how I feel about that. I guess that if the game is poised to like go on for many years, and there's going to be eventually like 50 killers, then maybe it's a good move that not all of them are extremely unique. Because by then, if a player starts playing and they have to learn every single thing about every single killer, that could be really confusing. But I also feel like that could limit their creativity, and eventually we're going to have 50 killers that are going to do different versions of the same thing, basically. So while I do enjoy the changes overall, I don't like the fact that killers get less unique and more streamlined.
It's like it's the safer game design choice, but it's
Exactly.
also the more boring one. So yeah, I as people like with experience in the game, I agree that that's like not the trend that I want to see continue because it results in, like you said, I'm going to use a big boy word, homogenization of killers, and it's it eventually makes the game just more boring.
How do you spell that?
I feel like half the people don't even know what it means, honestly. I don't know what it means, I'll be honest.
That's actually a really good point, because there's times where your 4 perks matter more than your power.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can be playing Trapper without setting a trap, or Legion without ever pressing M2, and just,
So
like your playstyle would just Enduring and Spirit Fury. Just walk to, you would have killers that virtually play the same. You would be good with one killer, and you would be good with basically 90% of them.
overall, though, do you think it's like if you were playing Doctor, do you think you get more use out of this than you do the static field, or do you think it's worse? Like
yes. It's a net improvement. Like, I'm just commenting on a little trend that's part of like a greater trend, but as an isolated change for the Doctor is much better now, in my opinion.
I would actually almost use his like when I play Doctor, I play him weird. Like I tend to not shock at the beginning at all. I just run around in punishment, and I kind of use the I switch a treatment row because going from tier 0 to tier 1 is really easy, and it's like a free like a sonar beacon. You can reveal people whenever you want, and that's basically what it is now on demand. So I actually kind of like that change.
Yeah, I personally am a huge fan of it myself, honestly. I think they I think instead of like I also think it's cool because it actually makes you actively do something as opposed to just passively getting a buff. I think like anything where like you don't actually have to actively do anything, you kind of just walk around and get a buff is kind of silly in my opinion. So I'm actually a pretty big fan of it myself.
What I find a little bit weird is that his add-ons haven't changed that much at all. So yeah, I'm honestly slightly concerned that if you guys thought that the old Doctor could take games hostage, your Doctor might be much worse.
That's actually a thing I was gonna ask.
I like, think about it. His third radius is the thing inflicting the static blast. He can shock, no problem. That builds up madness, and with certain add-ons, one blast, like the actual AOE with a cooldown, can put you straight into madness 2. It skips the madness 1 and goes straight into madness 2. So you can have people in madness 3 very early. And I honestly think that his late game with like pop, infectious, like the late game with him is going to be tough in some maps. And I don't see how, if the old Doctor could take games hostage sometimes, I don't see how this is not going to be way worse. So I don't know what they'll do to avoid that.
Well, I think the main thing that avoids that right now is the long cooldown. I think the cooldown is something. Do you guys? It's either like 30 or 60 seconds. Is it 60? Yeah, it's a full minute. That's kind of a lot.
Full minute?
Yeah. So he can only do it once every minute. So I think that was there to prevent them from like spamming it, in the end game. Because I think that was a big thing that made current hostage doc so bad, is that if you just put on, I forget the name of the add-on, the one that makes like your static field give more madness. If you put on that one and then like literally just walk from gen to gen, people will just passively go to tier 3 and you don't even have to do anything, Oh
yeah.
So taking that away, like the fact that he can only do that once every 60 seconds might be enough that I don't know if the
and it's also easier now to snap out of it. And if you do snap out of it, you go back to tier 1. So I guess that's the way it will self-balance. Because if you get interrupted while snapping out of the madness, you don't lose it, which was a big deal. Because how many times you're snapping out with the add-on that takes longer, then he interrupts you and you start again, then you scream randomly and then you start again.
Yeah, or God forbid you get like a tiny skill check early on or something. That's also in the top right of your screen. And no, absolutely. Speaking of skill checks, what do you guys think of counterclockwise skill checks? That is such a sweet addition, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
How did they not think of that before? But we haven't actually tested it. You have never hit a backward skill check, have you? Any of you?
No, I have. I was playing against it quite a bit on the BTB.
I thought it was glitched. I never got to see it myself.
Really? I ran into. I was in a game where I just got nonstop counterclockwise skill checks. They're hard. They're hard.
Yeah?
They are difficult. I'll be honest. Like, because the thing is that they're not every time. So you'll get like 2 counterclockwise, and then you'll get a clockwise, and then you're like, oh, what the next one? What's it gonna be? I don't know. Like, you don't even know where to start looking, and they're popping up on every side. Dude, it's actually kind of crazy. I'll be honest.
That actually opens up some interesting possibilities. Maybe that's what a nerving presence could do.
I'm actually
Imagine that with Old Ruin.
Oh,
Oh
no.
my god.
I mean, honestly, with
Nerving
Hunter's Lullaby
presence.
though, like with Hunter's Lullaby, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of combinations you can do.
And then you can combine that with distressing and overcharge. Man, this sounds like a fun build.
And
see.
we
I
haven't
can't.
used enough. We haven't used
Clockwise
enough frame yet.
I
wonder
can't.
which.
I can't tell if this sounds fun or if this sounds completely
That'll
miserable.
be miserable.
Oh, no,
That'll be miserable. It'd be terrible.
I'm
Oh.
mocking the idea that could happen. I'm kind of happy that they're changing Doctor because honestly, I feel like anybody, well, not everybody, but most people who played old Doctor only played Hostage Doctor, which is why he was almost really that's why he was really underplayed. And I personally never go against Doctors, and if I ever do, it's usually just a Hostage Doctor. So I think this change will really maybe light him up a bit more. Get some more Doctors.
I
And-
agree.
I think the problem with Doctor is that, like, his real power, at least the current one before this rework, his real power is the denial of palettes and windows. And the shock denial, which is like 2.5 seconds when you shock someone. And when you watch a good Doctor play it, that's how he plays it. He keeps using that whenever possible to gain distance and take a hit. Most Doctors you play, like the average Doctor you play against, they never do that because it's so imprecise, it's so hard to use. Instead, they just like go around making people scream randomly and playing M1 killer. So the fact that there's like, it's a bit like old Freddy as well, where nobody really played him right. People, instead of taking advantage of the fact that he could stall multiple people would use Freddy just a tunnel, which is the thing that he wasn't really meant to do.
I will say that I think a really good change they did is getting rid of the different stances. Like, I don't know if I completely covered this, but they completely got rid of they completely got rid of like treatment mode and punishment mode. That's completely gonzo. But old Doctor used to have to do that. Old Doctor was like, if you wanted to shock someone to like deny them a pallet drop, you would have to hold control to switch modes, shock them, hold control to switch back, and then swing. Like, it was like a whole process just to get a shock off. And they completely got rid of that. There's no more treatment mode. So now, just while you're walking around, you can just shock at any point. And I think just that little, I think people don't really realize it, but that little change of not having to push 5 buttons just to get an action, like, makes it a lot, it gives people more incentive to actually try to use the shock to stop people rather than just walking around and hitting people, you know? So I think that's also like one of the best changes they've done that I think a lot of people might be overlooking.
And I think it also eliminates a lot of frustration with the charge bar. There are 2 killers right now that do my head in when it comes to that. The Doctor, if you try to fail the bar entirely to change stances and then hit immediately, what you'll find often is that the game glitches.
Oh, it regresses back. Yeah.
And you either hit while you're in treatment and then it just goes back. It's just this really weird thing. It happens the same with Leatherface sometimes.
It's a
When you
dedicated
fully
thing, I think.
Yeah, when you fully charge it, you have it on. You're literally next to the survivor. You let it go, and because the game didn't detect that it's full, even though you literally saw it fill up, you cancel the chainsaw, and it's really frustrating. The fact that there's no multiple stances now and it just goes is so much better.
It feels much better. From what I'm told too, the change shouldn't be any different as far as like time that you make up. Like, apparently the move speed that you got from switching to treatment, shocking, and then switching back should be the exact same time, by the way, that you get now.
So it's mostly just the quality of life thing.
Yeah, it's literally all quality of life. There shouldn't. They did extend the range by 10% though. They did extend the range of the shock by 10%, which I think is actually kind of a big deal, because there would be a lot of times where you're going to shock someone and fall just barely.
I don't think the range was the biggest thing. It's just the fact that now you know that even if you don't have like esports precision in your mouse and your reflect, like, you're still going to be able to pull it off. And you're not going to have to count on your perfect input, on the perfect connection, on the other side, which is what the Doctor needs right now, because you can make a great play and still miss it.
All right, well, all right. How about, all right, so I'm going to ask like a more broad question. So I think we all agree for the most part, Doctor is definitely on the lower end. He's not that great of a killer for the most part.
Yeah.
You all agree with that?
Yeah.
So did this change enough for him to just be anything but, he's all right?
I think so. I think that I would have placed Doctor as the second worst in the current state with,
really that low.
I think so. I genuinely think so.
I think
Like,
with no
I
add-ons
see
or
it.
anything.
the add-ons on Doctor are almost none, unless you're going for like the super high rarity ones. But even then, I think the add-ons don't help Doctor that much. Like, think about green add-ons on Bubba. They make a big difference. Green add-ons on Chopper.
That's an interesting opinion.
That makes a huge difference. You play a lot of Bubba with no add-ons, and then you put a yellow or two. It makes a huge difference. Just how many times you get to a chainsaw in a window, and your thing is 99, and if you had the add-on, that guy was dead.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think there's a huge difference for killers like Bubba, like Trapper, who can suddenly carry 2 traps. God forbid. And then there's killers like the Doctor, whose low rarity add-ons really didn't do that much. Out of reading, 50% more static. Like, nothing really made your shock any better. Nothing. In fact, the range add-ons made it worse.
Because if the strength was more on the debuffs that it would place on the survivors,
but the real debuffs are the ones that you inflict at tier 3. By the time you're done putting a survivor to minus tier 3, you've already given up a lot of time in a chase that would have been just be better employed just down in the survivor.
That's really interesting. I feel like it's been pretty widely accepted that Doctor's add-ons are like strong and like
I don't believe so. And I've picked apart the brain of Archdruid Dre, which I think is the best Doctor out there. And I didn't just want to like be in my own echo chamber. And I asked his opinion before I ever got to meet him. And it's true that the add-ons add a lot of functionality and add a lot of features. And the Doctor without add-ons has there's no illusions in Madness Tier 2, there's no illusory palettes, all those things, all those wacky things, they only happen with add-ons. But those things don't help that much in the long run.
True. And
I honestly think that the add-ons on him are not that great. And that's why I think that with like average add-ons, whereas other killers like Scott, you would know for a fact, Wraith without add-ons versus Wraith with green ones.
Huge difference, completely different.
Huge difference. It's only like what, 15 or 16%. That makes the world of difference, because you can begin to body block. You actually have a bit more pressure. If you have nurses, you can find that little thing. Doctor doesn't have anything that helps him in that regard. You can play him without add-ons, and basically he's the same killer. So that's why I placed him really low. But what he's got right now, and this is from Dre, is the ability, while you're chasing one survivor, to bother other people and occasionally put them to Madness Tier 3, which is like a bit like a Legion kind of thing, where you bother multiple survivors by making people mend while you still commit to one. So he basically has the ability mid-game to deny stealth and to stall. If they're fighting for that one gen and you need a minute to hit it with pop, now you can randomly put a guy in Madness Tier 3, and now he has to snap out. And that, I think, already jumps him from the lowest tier in my book to probably being a little bit better than Trapper, a little bit better than Pig, a little bit better than Leatherface. And, he's like getting closer to all the other stronger killers.
Well, I guess my question is, what is the goal target of balance? What should we be trying to balance killers towards? Do we want them to just be like mid-tier, like average? Is that like the target balance, or do we want more like on the Billy side of strength?
How about we each say like 3 or 4 killers that we think are like on the sweet spot?
On the sweet spot, huh? Ooh. I think Demogorgon. I think Demogorgon is a good sweet spot in my opinion. I think he has a lot of strengths and a lot of power, but I think he's definitely beatable. I think that should be the general. As much as I love like Hillbilly, I think Hillbilly should be like the top end. He shouldn't be like the average. He should be the top end. And I think but I also don't think they should be like as weak as, say, like I don't know, like Leatherface. Obviously, like he's like too far down where it's like, give this guy some help. I think the Demogorgon area where like they're strong and like you can definitely struggle against them and you can tell that they have obvious strengths, but it's not like oppressing in any way for like a new player to play. I think that's really important. Is a new player, you can't have a killer where new players are just completely, and I think that's a big reason why Doctor might have even got like some changes, is because I think having a killer where like new players are just completely like getting dominated is not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all.
I think the reason for that is because the Demogorgon is actually hard to play well. It's so easy to make mistakes as Demogorgon and not use your power to the full utility, and it's a complex killer. I think that's good. I agree. I think that's a healthy level.
I think that's why I love Hunter so much as an answer to that question, because it's like when you load into the game, it's a lady who throws shit at you. 5 seconds in the game, you can know I need to not get hit by that thrown object, and that's like, she's very simple, but she's very strong. and played correctly, she can be absolutely devastating. But she can also get destroyed by certain bad maps too. So I think she's always been a good balance target.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Huntress is one of their honestly masterpiece killers, like right there with Billy, in my opinion.
Definitely agree.
And Ussylis, what do you think?
I mean, we have like with the Doctor, going back, just backstepping a little bit with the Doctor, right? He wasn't so good, right? He was definitely a little bit low tier, but the thing is something I like to focus on. I don't care how strong you are as a killer or how weak you are as a killer. I care about the fun factor. Because if you don't enjoy going against a killer, you don't really want to play the game. And I feel like that fun factor really is important in like solo queue, for example, because your teammates are not going to be the great. It doesn't matter if they're rank 1 or rank 10, doesn't matter. They're going to be terrible. And like, if you don't enjoy going against a Doctor or someone that's not fun, like Hag, for example, if they're like playing effectively, camping and just, well, maybe not camping, but placing like traps, underhooks, and basement, like that's just death. And you can't do anything against that. And like make your choice with monitor, that's even more death. Like there's not much things you can do. So Billy is a really good killer. He's really fun to play as, and also really fun to play against. That's like Hellbay's one of those killers that I want killers to be balanced towards. You can be the best killer in the game. If you're fun to play against, if I feel like I'm being outplayed when I go down by you, I don't care. I have fun. If I win against like a Doctor, like old Doctor with like hostage and everything, I don't feel satisfied winning against you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have fun winning. You just like, God, I'm finally out of that game. Jesus.
Oh God, the disconnect penalty. And that goes to the disconnect penalty, the conversation I want to have later on.
I agree with that.
That's
in
important.
Every term of this game, honestly. I think quality of life is a big thing with this game, especially because it's asymmetrical and like the tools that one side has, the other side doesn't. Like for instance, if you're playing a symmetrical game like Overwatch and you're like, God damn it, I hate Mei, you could just play Mei. You know what I mean? You can't do that in DBD. If you're in DBD and you're like, Jesus, Doctor is making me miserable, you can't just turn around. Or I guess you could just go play Doctor and not play Survivor. But like if you're playing like with your friends and you're wanting to play Survivor, you can't really do anything back that's like the same, you know? I think it's really
his clothes off, starts laughing. I'm Doc now.
I think it is really important though that like things that are added to the game are not only balanced, like balance is definitely important, right? But they definitely need to have that in mind with like the quality of life and making sure that things are fun. And that actually makes me curious. Do you guys think that the new Doctor is better quality of life? Like I think from like the killer's point of view, I think it's better. I think we've already talked about that. Like like from a killer point of view, it feels a lot smoother. Everything feels better. From the survivor's point of view, playing against new Doctor, do you think it's?
I think it will be better as well, because let's think about it. He can shock you only once every minute, so you can keep an internal clock of like, he shocked me about a minute ago. I am now hearing his terror radius, so I am vulnerable. So that's a great indication. Like if I don't hear his terror radius, he can never ever shock me because it works based on it. So if it's been about a minute and I hear the terror radius, hey, might want to sit it out for a minute if I want to. I've seen survivors, like they know I have pop and they won't touch a generator. They play smart around it. They give, there's like some meaningful guessing, counterplay back and forth. And I think that's fun in the game. I don't think.
Isn't that almost a little bit of a nerf then? Because the unpredictability of when they would scream actually benefited the killer then? Because you can't really play around random just, oh, I'm tier 3 now, I'm screamed. Like, I'm trying to bring up like a counterpoint to that.
I mean, I would actually argue that as a survivor, there was more counterplay to that because you would see your bar and you would see. Well, you couldn't really counterplay tier 1 because tier 1 would happen randomly, but you can counterplay like tier 2 and tier 3 because you can see the madness.
If he doesn't want to use if he keeps the tier 1, if he doesn't want to use ever tier 1, he couldn't use his power, because if you wanted to shock someone once,
you'd have to go into treatment.
You would have to go into treatment. Now you can shock people and never ever ever use your blast, which gives you more control, and I think that's good. Because there are some add-ons that work based on your cooldown. So it's cool if you can decide when to use each of your abilities. And I think that's great. It's like the pig has the ability to crouch and the ability to set traps, and they're not related to each other. And you can decide when to use each. I think that's good. It will probably elevate the skill cap and make for more fun situations.
Do you think his anti-stealth is too strong? I think that's an interesting thing to bring up because I think a lot of new players rely on stealth, which is not a bad thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think any killer, like this was a big thing with old Freddy, and I think a big reason why he got changed.
Yeah.
Is because new players rely on stealth so much, and he just made stealth impossible, like literally impossible. Like I don't.
And the huge RNG factor as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if New Doctor is anywhere near as bad as old Freddy, but do you guys think that is a thing that might exist? Is that a problem that he might still have, or
with the size of the current maps, where if you shock randomly without whispers, you have like a 2% chance of finding anyone? Probably not. Probably not. But no, I don't think it would be too much of a big deal. Because it's not like he has everything. It's like his one thing is anti-stealth and minor anti-looping capabilities, and that's it. He doesn't have a one-shot. He doesn't have some other form of lethality just built into his kit. So maybe that's okay to have one killer that exceeds at one thing.
I agree with that.
Sorry, I think I interrupted Ussylis. Go ahead.
I lost train of thought. Sorry.
Wow.
I forgot it wasn't that important.
Do you guys have any final thoughts about Doctor? We can move on topic and go on to the next one.
I just have a question. What do you guys think the main reason for changing Doc was in the devs head? Did they want to buff it? Did they want to make him easier to go against for new players? Did they want to improve quality of life? What was like the main reasoning?
I think it's the streamlining. I think he had things about him that were just too unique and too weird. And they were like, yeah, like later down the line, we might want to have other killers with, reverse skill checks. Maybe they're already coming up with some ideas for future killers, and they're like, but right now we don't have this. And it's the same reason why they came on with Undetectable. Undetectable now works on the Demogorgon. Killer Instinct works on the Legion, but now also works on the Demogorgon. They make these little snippets of gameplay and mechanics that sneak their way into different killers. So I'm assuming that something that we'll see on the Doctor now will manifest in another killer down the line, and they just want to streamline it before that happens.
So it's like to simplify that. Okay.
Yeah,
I honestly think there's a lot of quality of life in there too. To be honest, though, I think it's a mix of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think old Doctor was really bad quality of life, both in trying to understand him as well as like playing against him, and like
I think it's really sad when a killer is like never picked.
Yeah,
and I understand some killers are strong and they're never picked because they're not popular. Or there's other killers that do it better, but like when you don't see almost anyone play Doctor at red ranks, or Clown, you start wondering why. And
I think another big thing is too. Have you guys ever had someone come to you and ask you, "Hey, could you explain the Doctor to me? I'm a new player. Could you explain the Doctor?" You're like, okay. There's, you have to like sit there and talk like 8 different things. Like now it's a lot.
Chapter 1. Is that radius?
Let me open up this novel real quick. Yeah, like now you actually, you can sort of sum it up. It's like, he has he just shocks. He has a static blast. Like that's it. That's the extent of it. So
did you guys find him more fun to play on the PTB?
Yeah. There were two things that I think were problematic, but I think the developers have already said
the delay, right?
Both delays, because there's two. The first one is that you shock a survivor, he's completely unable to do anything for like 2.5 seconds, but you yourself cannot do anything for about 2 seconds. So there would be this really awkward scenario where you would shock a survivor, they would go to a window, stop, and you would be like, I'm about to hit you. I'm about to hit you. In a minute now, I'm about to hit you. And then, boop. And they're going to remove that. They're going to make it so that you get your action faster. And then there's another delay that was really noticeable, which is, all right, he charges the shock. He releases the shock hits the ground. And at that moment, it should hit the survivor. But it was delayed by 0.25 seconds. And I know the exact number because the developer was in the stream when someone was talking about this and was like, yeah, it's been delayed it should happen faster. So that means that when you shock someone, they won't actually get away with the vault because it should come sooner. So once those two things are fixed, I think it's going to be in a really, really sweet place.
I can agree with that.
I think we should just, once again, be patient. Let the patch happen. Let people understand how the killer works.
Patience. Yeah.
We need patience.
That's going to be
Writing on the Steam forums.
Are you telling the DVD community to be patient right now?
Clear communication and patience is the #1 issue I see with this game. It's community. It's so bad. Just be patient and have clear communication. If you don't like something in it, you're going to give a an actual constructive argument on why you think something is bad in the game and you want to get it changed, then do it. But don't say like, "Oh, I hate this. Uninstall. I hate this." Just be patient and have
5,000 hours in the game, but I'm uninstalling tomorrow.
Freddy OP, I leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wish more people were like that for sure. All right, any final words for Doc?
That's pretty much it.
All right, I think
I didn't play him enough to feel super strongly about him, so
Yeah.
I definitely think overall it's a good change. I'm pretty excited for it. The next big thing I want to talk about. Sorry to cut you off. The next big thing I want to talk about is the reworked map. I don't know if you guys have played it a lot. I played it a lot. I was really excited for this. They changed Lery's Memorial Institute, which is the doctor's map, to go along with the doctor change. Which, if you guys don't know, is like the really annoying indoor map where it's like a maze and it's hard to find your way around and stuff. And they completely reworked it, and well, they reworked it in a lot of ways. And I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts because I have a lot of strong feelings about this rework.
I don't think anybody liked this map, but I don't think anyone was like they need to rework this map first. So that came as a bit of a shock to I think everyone.
I said that all the time.
Would you
I think
have
survivors
guessed that?
really hate that map a lot because it's just like pure luck. You just run into a room. I hope this window
Right.
spawned here. I didn't. Yes,
Really?
I'm dead. It's just so unfulfilling to play on as Survivor.
Yeah, and you know,
I completely feel that, and I heard that the developers have reduced the amount of windows and vaults in the new version, which, by the way, looks great, and I think everybody agrees that it looks like
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
aesthetically amazing.
It's perfect.
yeah. Before we talk about anything else, aesthetically, it is amazing. They did
Oh yeah,
a-
visually amazing. Oh, it's
Like,
fantastic.
I think it's safe
It's-
to say that DBD art team is always good. Like always, like they never do anything bad.
Yeah, they slay it. It's insane. Like every time I see something new, I'm always like, wow. Like every time, it's crazy.
Why
But
don't
that
the
being
art guys work on the programming?
yeah, just start making skins and start programming things. No, but okay. So actually, that's kind of interesting. That's a new way to look at. I think I'll ask someone else. I was planning on asking something, but what you just said kind of makes me want to ask something else. How do you guys like? What do you guys think was wrong with Lery's, like old Lery's? If there was something wrong with it, what do you think was the issue with it?
Puzzle.
Okay.
One-word answer.
Here's the
Puzzle.
thing. That
It's amazing.
there are some buildings in this game, like main buildings, that have some semblance of like consistency. For example, if you play in the asylum, you guys know there's often a pallet that you go through, and sometimes on the side there's a drop. Sometimes on the side there's not a drop, and you can walk around it. And if you pay attention to the lights, there are different lights on the one where there's a drop. There's different bulbs on the lights on the pallet where there's no drop. Little details that you can pay attention to, and you're like, aha, I know where I am. I know how to play around this tile to chase or to run away from the killer. In this map, I just can't do that for the life of me. I just
Agreed.
can't. I'm like, okay, I try to find patterns. Like, oh, okay, there's the small door with a big frame and the window there. That must mean that the room is. And then I go, it's like, no, it's not there. There's no semblance of sense. Everything's scrambled up. And
I
just
think
like
that-
Scott said,
yeah.
you just walk into a room and pray that there's something in there.
I think to simplify the issue with Lery's, it removes a lot of the skill people have grown over the years with like learning how to run maps. It kind of just
Yeah.
removes that element completely from both sides, killer and survivor.
Agreed. It's
It's
completely
unfulfilling on
random.
both sides.
I think a big part of this game from both sides is like, I mean, like how you play maps is literally how you play the game. Like that's literally all the game is how well you play each map. And I think a big thing on Survivor and Killer is like being able to look in front of you and recognize strong tiles, weak tiles, right? As a killer, if you see a survivor running to like a shack jungle gym combo, you're like, no, thank you. I'm going to go find someone else, right? Or if you're a survivor and you see that, you're like, that's where I'm going. Like, that's a strong setup. You know what I mean? And on Lery's, you don't get that. There's none of that. There's no really like looking around and knowing for sure. There are some sort of consistent spawns, like the super long rooms, like you know how like like a lot of the rooms are squares and then there's a couple of them that are like double size like rectangle rooms.
Oh, the rectangle rooms. Yeah, those are predictable.
The rectangle rooms are consistent. They always spawn in the same place, and same thing with the
I
library.
expected more rooms like that in the new map.
I did too. I was
Yeah,
hoping
same.
for it. That's the thing.
I would have been like really, really pleasantly surprised if most of the rooms were like that, which is kind of what happens in the new indoors map, the laboratory, which
Yeah.
most rooms are like, you know, they might be more or less balanced, but you know what you're expecting basically.
You know, I think Lab actually has 3 every time, or does it have 2 every time? I think it's the same way too. I think it has a static amount of like long rooms that it spawns every time. So
and they can be swapped like on and about, but it's mostly the same thing.
yeah, so I think that's the biggest issue that everybody had with it, was just like not really being able to recognize like what's where and what's strong. And I think another big thing is the fact that like some of the tiles that do spawn are insane. Sometimes you'll get like a window spawn next to another window spawn, and it's just nuts. And like the second that a survivor sees that, they just never leave it for the whole match, and that becomes the entire match, is you just going to that window setup again. You know,
It's just all luck. It's just yeah.
I don't know if this new map has fixed any of that. What do you guys think?
No, it looks visually
I
more
still
appealing,
find the
but-
rooms to be little. I like the fact that some of there's like this one god palette in the middle of a huge corridor that's like dividing the entire map in two. That looks like if they drop that, you're like, okay, I need to break this now. There's like no way to go around ever. If there's less windows, which they've said is the case, that's a good thing, I suppose. But I find it really.
I didn't really notice less windows, honestly. Like maybe slightly less. The big difference is I realized from like a gameplay game point. First off, the library, the double window library, was no longer a thing. It was just like one window and then like an opening. So that thing was gone.
No, that can
It can be a window.
Yeah, it
Really?
can be both now. Yeah, it can swim back and forth apparently.
Interesting. Every time I saw it, it was just like a single window and then a open.
And I honestly felt like that was a kick in the guts a bit, because when I play Trapper on the hospital, I'm just trying to find the library, because it's the one place in the hospital where everything spawns in the same place, and where there's no grass, mind you, so you're not gonna hide anything, but at least you can trap this and know that you can corral people in this way. And now I don't even have that, because it's like I need to get there physically to see what I'm gonna find. It seems a bit difficult. There might be patterns that are now easier to see, but maybe in the time we've had to play it, we just don't see them. Like maybe.
Yeah.
There is more pallets as well on like the outside. Like I don't know if you noticed, but like the corners of the map that used to just always have nothing, now they have pallets that spawn there. And honestly, sometimes the pallets are okay in strength. Like they're not like terrible, but they're not like great either. But at least they're there. And then it seems like there's some more pallets just like in between the rooms too. But the pallets in the rooms, like if a pallet does spawn in the room, they seem like they're very weak, like almost Hawkins level weak, which I'm not so sure about. Because again, like I feel like what that does is by adding all these pallets that are insanely weak, it just makes people rely on the windows again, like they were before. And I feel like what the Lery's gameplay turns into is just running around until you can find a dirty setup.
The windows never go away. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Pallets run out. If you balance around pallets, it's a resource that survivors have to manage. Windows are a thing survivors have to find, and if they're good enough, abuse, and that seems to be the end of it. So I can see why that is a problem.
The one palette change I liked on the new Larry's was like, on both of the exit gates, there's like, that area where the gen can spawn, and there's like that one pallet right next to it. They seem to have like made that longer, so it's not ridiculously unsafe. Other than that, though, like I didn't like when I was playing, I was like, yeah, this looks really cool, but I feel like I'm still having the Larry's experience. Like I didn't feel like it was that much different.
It's not really going to change for the stealth killers. It's going to be the same deal.
That's the issue with Larry's. It's one of those maps that's like not Dead by Daylight. It's not like Macmillan. It's not like Colwyn. You don't have any of these tiles that you usually get from those maps. It's just its own map. It feels like a community map that's like made for like kill your friends. It doesn't feel like a map that should actually be played.
Does anyone here like the indoor maps?
No.
I'm trying to think about that. Is there any indoor maps that we like?
I hate all of the indoor maps.
Okay.
Gideon Bee Plant. That sucks. That's like the worst map in the game.
It's just boring.
It's actually funny.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now that we are not like the majority. I remember I had a discussion with a group of people in the past where I was in the minority by hating Larry's and hating indoor maps, because I know a lot of people actually do love indoor maps.
A lot of people do like them.
Which is really I don't get it either. Like it's hard for me to like understand like I don't know, because to me it feels like it takes all of the skill and learning that you take in a game, that like it feels like all the knowledge that you gain from playing just goes out the window, and it's just like random chance, and you're just like
Hawkins is just they're running around, they're gonna drop a pallet, I'm gonna run around the pallet, and then we're gonna do the little guessy game, and then he vaults it, and it's just like you don't kick, like there's like 2 pallets on Hawkins you're supposed to kick. and like every other thing, you just do the same. It's just boring, predictable gameplay. It's just gotta hate it. Sorry, I don't rant.
Yeah, I think when you're playing Survivor on Larry's, I think I think what makes Survivor fun to play as in chases is combining windows and pallets together. That way you can be efficient. That's what the efficiency, the whole entire playing optimally feels like. When you play on Larry's, you just have windows, and if you waste a pallet, you're terrible. That's what your teammates usually call out on. You play on Gideon Meat Plant, you just waste pallet. Even if like the killer can pallet respect, and they don't even have to get stunned. They could just sit there, wait for you to drop the pallet, and if you just keep running, they get a free hit. Doesn't matter because the loops are way too long anyway. It's a safe pallet.
I think the game was like the most uninteractive map in the entire game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And on Hawkins, it's just if you don't get a stun, you're fucked.
Pretty much.
That's what that map is. Like I love it visually. I love the design of the map, but after some time, I just realized how it's just not that fun. Like I want it to be fun, but it just isn't.
What is up with the generators that are just like so far of your that you have to go through so much path just to and you just like give up on? Do we like those? Because I feel like that is awful.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Can you elaborate more? I'm not really sure what you mean.
On the subject of Hawkins Laboratory, you have a generator that can spawn on the top of the glass room on the very, very corner that will take you about 16 years to maneuver. And you know that the final generator they have to do is going to be one of 3. So you just give up on that one and worry about something else. And you never, ever go to that part of the map. I think that's not how generators should be. And there's 2 of them like that.
It's like a silent syndrome.
How many of you have like patrolled the generator of the top room as well? The one in the isolation room up top. Where do you ever go there to check on
you have to go up like 3
Yeah.
floors.
There's no one here. Well, I guess I won't see a survivor for the next few minutes now.
Yeah, those are definitely not well placed at all.
I feel like all the best maps in Dead by Daylight are outdoor maps. That is my opinion. There are some bad maps on outdoor, but I don't know a single indoor map that's actually enjoyable to play on. I just can't think of I just can't think of a single one.
I agree.
27 coal towers. That's it.
And that kind of makes you want to ask, do you guys have like, okay, if you guys say you guys were tasked with the task of reworking Larry's and making it fun, what would be your vision? Like what would you do to the map to make it fun while still maintaining it? We can't fucking remove it, okay?
You can't fix it.
You have to fix it.
You can't fix it. The idea of it is terrible. Just remove it.
Have you guys ever been to like a big mall that has like a high ceiling? And it's an indoors thing, but it's got a high ceiling where you actually can see around a little bit, and maybe there's like little shop stalls and stuff.
Yeah, thematically, a little bit far away, you can see. Like a cafeteria or something like that. Like you can have big rooms like that still fit the theme of the map, and it's not just like wall.
I agree. I feel like it would be amazing if they like had like a giant room with like a bunch of like mini tiles inside. Like maybe have like maybe like 4 tiles all inside that are like weak pallets with like a couple little like window setups. Like you can literally put a jungle gym. You can put like a jungle gym from Macmillan in the cafeteria even, and just make like the walls, somehow related to the walls of Larry's,
Mm-hmm. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that they could have done, and I think that's another big thing too is like reusable assets. I think that's a big thing that a lot of other maps do. For instance, like when like the new the new like Temple of Purgation map came out with Plague or whatever, like it was a new map, but generally speaking, it had the general same tiles that we all recognize, right? It had shack, it had the same jungle gyms, it had stuff that we recognize from other maps, and I think that's really good too. Like it gives you something that you're familiar with that you can play around. It's not like a completely insane new experience of randomness every time, and I think they could have worked that into Larry's, and I'm kind of upset that they didn't, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I see what you mean. I think also a big part of like small maps is the fact that you cannot see from a distance. Like when survivors spawn in, they look generator there, shack there, chest over here. You see so much from a distance above your head, and that's why I thought of like a high ceiling so that you can see like, okay, the cafeteria or whatever part of the hospital has this sign up top that I can see from afar.
Well,
you don't see anything in the hospital. Like people, like new survivors, they struggle to find generators. I struggle to find generators half the time. It's like, oh, okay, there's 5 gens left to do, and I just can't find any of them. because they're just not predictable. And just the fact that you don't have that information and you're wasting time, I think is what makes them so frustrating sometimes.
Personally, I feel like Lery's one of those maps that if you get a heartbeat killer, survivors are usually going to tend to win because they can just hide, and it's super easy to hide on that map. But if you get a stealthy killer, you're going to have a really bad time. That's kind of how I feel about Lery's or any indoor maps, I should say.
You're triggering my PTSD. I remember playing Trapper once in Lery's. I was like, I'm not going to set up any trap. Let's just stay survivors. I didn't have whispers. I couldn't find anyone for 3 minutes. It was horrible. I've never felt more frustrated in my life. And I'm like, I've checked every single generator in this map 3 times, and I just can't find anyone, dude.
Did you have fun?
That's awful.
Oh yeah, tons of fun.
Yeah, that point about like the whole line of sight thing too. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'll start a match and like I'll know the right direction to look, and I'll see just a tiny little glimpse of someone like running in the distance, and that gets me like my first chase going really fast. And like with Larry's, I just bumble around and just stumble into shit until I find someone. I just never feel like I have a plan.
I literally autopilot when I get maps like that. I just walk around. I'm like,
You're just like
I stumble into
like
someone.
an AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like a screensaver just going like around the map.
I perfectly understand anybody that disconnects from those maps. I know disconnecting is one conversation, but if you get Lery's like 10 times in a row, I completely understand if you disconnect. Like, that's just how I am. If you're in a competitive game or a competitive queue in Dead by Daylight, if that was ever a thing, then I would be kind of disappointed. But if it's a casual game, it's a fun game. I understand if you disconnect because it's just terrible.
I think it is important to know though that some people do find that fun though. Some people like the aspect of not knowing. Like some people don't want like all the information given for free, and some people want to have to like scout and stuff. So, you know, like even though we all kind of like universally agree on this, I do think it is something that the devs would have to like decide themselves whether they want that to be a part of their game or not. Like I personally would love to see it go, but I'm just one person, right? Like I'm sure there's plenty of people that enjoy it. But that's definitely my biggest gripe with the map. I am honestly super disappointed in it. Like out of the whole patch, I liked most of the things, and the new map was the big thing that I like going into the patch. That was the thing that I was most excited to see because I hate Lery so much, and they
did a good job with the previous rework of maps.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why I was so like
everything that was kind of wrong, they kind of addressed. So it is kind of shocking to see that like the big deal. Like no one complained that Lery's look ugly. Which now we know it did because this one is much better. So, yeah. But yeah, I think you've hit a very, very important thing there. Did you think this is a ploy to get people to run Windows of Opportunity and Sanchin Tactics?
Maybe if they give Windows more than a 20-meter range, dude. That perk is so bad. 20 meters is like nothing. Like, what are they doing?
Oh my god.
And it goes away when you hit someone.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they can't make Windows as permanent. I don't understand that. It's
that
such
may
a
be a little.
You mean like no enemy block?
No. You know when you use Windows of Opportunity, but like after you're using a chase.
Yeah.
He means the IR reading permanent.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
No, that's fine. I thought you meant make
I
Windows.
think you
Like,
both
no
misunderstood.
No. I'm not that entitled. Hello.
Stop there, Satan.
Give the survivors AK-47s while we're at it too. Yes.
Red Mori for survivors.
Do we have any final thoughts on Lery's?
Meh.
Rework the rework.
Rework the rework. Scrap it.
That's really sad. That's really sad. It's like your girlfriend comes to you like, hey honey, you know how I always burn things in the kitchen? I've spent like 20 hours of culinary school just trying to learn how to cook this, and then you taste it and it's awful. And you're like, that's great. Yeah, honey, like you feel terrible because you see the effort that's been put into it, but the problem is still there.
I do think it's better. I think that's a good analogy because I think it's better. Like
that's a decent analogy, yeah.
Yeah, like the map designers definitely they made the burnt food slightly less burnt. Like it's more edible now, but it's still like you're still like shit. I would rather just be having this other food,
like,
you know.
Plated beautifully, but when you taste it, it's still like.
Oh shit!
Oh lord,
that's good. That's good. I like that.
Okay.
Right. So I think we mostly have the same sentiments on this map.
Yeah.
Then let's move on
yeah.
to something we disagree. I just want to hear you guys just.
Okay, this next topic is going to be the doozy of the whole podcast. This is the one. I
Oh,
was
let me
looking
get off my
forward to.
seat.
Yeah, sit up. This is the new Hex Ruin, which is, whoo lord. Ever since they announced this, dude, I've just been like, I've been loving like DBD subreddit, Twitter,
God.
the forums.
If anything, just the response to it.
I know.
It's so fun to read.
I feel like I want to start first. But
Yeah,
I feel
like-
I should.
I don't think people are even
you think they
wrong.
were doing do you think they were doing like a stress test on the forums? And then it was just like a prank, and they're not actually doing it. And like on April, they're gonna be like, guys, we have the best prank ever. We had a guy in the office saying, how about we test how many posts they can do a day? What can we say to get them riled up?
my God.
Oh, hold up, I have an idea.
Oh lord. Okay, so I'm gonna start this out just by elaborating and clarifying. I'm sure most people probably know all this, but just in case someone doesn't, I'm gonna just bear with me for a second. Old Hex Ruin before the change, like the ones on current live build, is a hex perk where when it's tied to a totem. So if you break the totem, it goes away, and until it gets broken, all skill checks are red. If you hit a good skill check, it actually regresses the gen 5% and then pauses it for 3 seconds. If you hit a great skill check, nothing happens and it just goes on as if you never got a skill check. That's what current Ruin is. It's a very powerful early game perk that helps like killers get pressure early because like gens are so much harder to do, and it's also a totem perk, so it'll eventually get broken, which is hence the early game perk. So they changed it and they're reworking it, and now what it is, instead of all of that, now it's still a totem perk, but now it makes it so that if you let go of a gen at any point, it'll instantly start regressing as if it got kicked, but the regression will also be double speed of a regular kick. So it no longer like messes with skill checks. It no longer like really like slows you down if you're actually just holding onto the gen. And that's essentially the change, which...
So basically, if you do a generator, normally it does nothing, but the moment you let go of it, it begins to go back. And if you get survivors to let go of generators by applying pressure, now it's like a pressure tool, a different one.
Yeah. So Hex Ruin has had, I don't know what the proper terminology here is, but it had like an 80% run rate or something at rank 1. I think it existed in like 80% of games.
Above 80. Was it 85?
It was in the like mid 80s.
It was pretty
I
damn
think.
high.
It was
Yeah.
in almost every game of red rank. So with that in mind, do you guys think that this change was like justified? Do you think it was good? Do you think it should have happened?
Who wants to start?
Yeah, who wants to start this
We all
one?
have a lot of strong thoughts about this.
Yeah.
As Scott said in a video that I agreed with, it's a good change, but it happened at the wrong time.
I
think-
agree.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah,
That man
that's-
is a genius.
I think, I don't know. I feel like maybe, right? This is not me complaining about Ruin. I feel like maybe with time, with this new change, developers will be able to, or behavior, will be able to see the statistics of how fast gens go and just see how ridiculous the game can get. And then, act accordingly. They can make generators take a couple extra charges to do. Like 90 charges, not 80, just 90. Is that too much of an issue? No. Is that early game pressure? Yes. The issue I had with Ruin is that it made like newer players' experience so bad, and it obliterated them. But if you went against a good team, it does practically nothing. And that's something. I mean, it does a little bit, but for the most part, it doesn't really do anything. And I like the concept of New Ruin, but I don't think it should be applied to Ruin. I think it should be applied to a different hex perk. I think the concept alone is a good concept of a perk, but it just happened at the wrong time, man. That's all I can really agree on. It just happened at such a bad time.
So
Because now no one can play low tier killers now, or for the most part.
So based on the way you were talking about it, do you think that Hex Ruin is like a kind of like a, how do I word this? Like kind of like a noob stomper perk, or at least old Hex Ruin, Was it like a noob stomper perk? Like against good survivors doesn't really do a lot, but against like not so good survivors.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it?
It works for everybody.
I don't
Yeah.
even agree with that notion.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even agree with it. No, is the old Ruin or Ruin a noob stomper? 100%. Is it bad against good survivors because they can hit? No, it's still very, very good. How many lobbies have you been to where the survivors are good and they ignore Ruin? They see it, but they ignore it the same way they can ignore Lullaby or ignore Thana and still heal. No one ignores Ruin. No one ignores it. If they can cleanse it, they cleanse it. I rarely have seen a team find my Ruin and be like, yeah, we're so confident that the first chance we have to cleanse it, the first 15 seconds you're busy hooking somewhere, we're not going to go there and cleanse it immediately. Everyone does that.
I mean, to be fair, I've never seen anyone leave a totem ever. I've never left a burning totem. If I see a burning totem, that shit is broke. I don't care if it's a spirit and she doesn't have Ruin and it's like 99% haunted ground. I am breaking that shit.
Yeah.
Because it could be Devour Hope, you know? I don't know. I got to break that shit.
I just think Ruin does... Like, I think it's the only thing that the community, like the general knowledge of the community is actually spot on. Like, people talk about Ruin like it's the best perk ever. And they're right. It does so many things early on. And the more you think about it, the more you realize. If you go on a big map, there's 3 survivors with a toolbox or 2 or a prove thyself or 2, and they stay on that gen and they begin to crank it up. If you're not headed there directly, that gen is gone in 30 seconds. It's gone. There's nothing that can stop that except Ruin. If you have one of those 3 survivors suddenly miss a couple skill check, now that momentum from those 3 people is completely stopped. Ruin is the best deterrent for early game, toolbox, stop multiple gen speed increasing, stacking survivors to do a gen together. Ruin destroy these people. I'm sure you've all been there where you spawn, all the gen, there's like a generator and there's 4 survivors, they all stack on it. The gen gets to like 30% super quickly, then somebody starts getting skill checks from Ruin, and the gen just goes back. And the killer appears, and that gen is now back at 0. Whereas without Ruin, that gen would have popped immediately, and the killer would have been in a much tougher match. There's no other perk that can do that. I think no other perk that can do that.
I would disagree, and I would say Corrupt Intervention does a pretty good job of doing that. I think Corrupt Intervention, it literally is the 3 furthest gens. So... like, literally, even if they're on the gen that is furthest away from you that's available, even if you just beeline to it, even if you're like a nurse and you don't even blink, you're still going to get there before they get very much done. Like, Corrupt Intervention, I think, fixes that quite a bit. Although I do agree with the strength of Ruin. I'm not trying to take that away and say that Ruin isn't really strong. I completely agree. Ruin is extremely powerful.
That's actually a really, really good point. It's true that Corrupt Intervention does that. The only problem is that Corrupt Intervention has a big trade-off. One, obviously, people kind of waited. That's obvious. But the thing about Corrupt Intervention is how it makes the end game harder. With Ruin, you basically don't give anything up. Yes, there's the risk of losing it. But even if you lose it in 30 seconds, which is, not that rare, that's 1 survivor who didn't do gens for 30 seconds. That's maybe 1 or 2 survivors who looked for Ruin for a little while. And that's 1 survivor that you now know where he is because he had to cleanse a physical totem somewhere. And you're going to hear it, and you're going to know he's there. So even if you were completely lost, at least you know where 1 survivor is. With Corrupt Intervention, you could very well go into a game, not find anybody, see an open chest, see a broken dual totem, and not find anybody. They are slow on the gens, but they crank them up. And then the final gens, because the furthest away generators were blocked at the beginning, now those would be your final 3 generators. And good luck defending that. I've been toying a lot with non-Ruin setups. And I found that Corrupt Intervention and on given maps, depending on your playstyle, it can definitely hurt you. You can make a lot of mistakes with Corrupt Intervention, and it's only as good as you make it for those 2 minutes. That's why I think the average player just is not that inclined to use it. Because if you play badly with Corrupt, it's just going to make your own game harder. Whereas if you play badly with Ruin and it lasts a little bit, you win the game regardless. Because it requires no real planning from your part.
That's interesting. I would think it would be good if the final 3 gens were close to each other. Like
they're not necessarily close to each other because you can spawn in the middle of a map, and then the furthest 3 generators from you will be very far from each other.
Yeah,
which is what usually happens, unless you go in a map that has a very specific spawn point and generator set like Azerobs. Or the Suffocation Pit. With Suffocation Pit, if I have Corrupt on my Trapper, for example, I already see which 3 gen I'm going to have because it will be where I spawn.
I
Because
found-
the other,
I find
or
that
the-
happens more often than not for me. I don't know. Like maybe I've just been getting lucky, or maybe you've been getting unlucky. But I find that like well over half my games with corrupt, the 3 gens are usually pretty close to each other. I feel like it's very often that they're not very often that they're like split all around the map.
But the point is, you need to adapt. The one map where you spawn, like Haddonfield, if you spawn in the middle, and you will have to adapt to that, and that requires effort on your part, which you, as a very experienced player, can do. You give corrupt intervention to the average Ruin user, and you're destroying them. That's why it's so hard to. Okay, the Ruin's gone. What do you advise? Well, I advise that you get really good at the game and learn how to improvise and learn how to down people quickly to use pop, learn how to use whispers to find them quick, learn how to manage generators to use corrupt. You're going to have to learn a lot more because you have no perk just holding your hand this entire time.
I've always found corrupt intervention to be like, I've been using it a lot more lately since I stopped using Rune in my killers because I'm just getting ready for it. I've found it to be not so much a game delay perk, but a tracking perk. Because usually it'll filter survivors into a much smaller area where I can start a chase much faster.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it does slow the game down because your first chase is much faster. But in terms of actually stopping gens from being done, if the first chase still takes a while, it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't do that.
They reposition and then 3 gens pop because these guys were all moving together. They all moved together. They found the 1 gen that you're not pressuring, and now that gen goes. And it's really. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying it's hard to use and requires.
I just don't think it's like a replacement. Because people are saying use it as a replacement.
Just do the same thing, and it's what's like the mantra that I always say, and I think it's really true. It doesn't buy you time; it buys you space, and space can be useful if you can manage it and translate that into shorter chases. If you begin to chase a survivor in the area of the map where the survivors are sealed, where the generators are sealed, you're gonna down him. And you're going to find out that you've not been disrupting anybody because all those people are in another part of the map. So what happens when you have corrupt intervention? You only find 1 survivor and he runs to the corner of the map where all the gens are sealed. Do you chase him there? That's a mistake. That's a mistake because even if you down him quickly, you're going to have 3 survivors that now sprinted to the opposite end of the map who are doing a gen that you're not going to be able to pop or defend in any way. So it is a perk that requires a lot of thinking on the move.
I would almost disagree. I don't think there's no benefit to that. I think if you're getting rid of pallets at the 3 gens that are blocked, that sets you up for a strong late game 3 gen defense. You know what I mean? It sets it up so that in the late game, those gens are now in a dead zone. I don't think it's like I get what you're saying. It's not as good as it would be if you were downing near the other teammates. But I definitely think it does have some benefit to it. I think the important thing is it seems to me like old Ruin didn't require you to have any strategy. You didn't have to like be good at the game to get benefit out of old Ruin. You just slapped it on and you got benefits. And with new Ruin or any other of these perks, you actually have to have like strategy and knowledge. Okay, so how about I ask this? Is killer fair right now without say Hex Ruin was completely removed, or like even with the new rework, is killer fair? Could you do well as killer without Ruin? And
on an average game?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We can say both because I think that's an interesting discussion. I know it's a heavy, it's a loaded question. There's because there's a lot of like depends that goes into it.
There's a lot of variables there.
Yeah.
Here's the issue, right? When I do play killer, I might be entitled, but I do play killer. And when I play killer, I play like Huntress, Hillbilly. That's pretty much the only 2 killers I ever play as. And I don't use Ruin, and I don't need Ruin. But if I were to play as someone like maybe Legion, Leatherface, just low tier killers, I feel like I would need Ruin just to have early game pressure. But that's the reason why I don't like Ruin as a perk. It feels like you need Ruin just to play those killers, just to have early game, regression. I feel like if gens just the base number of the charges that it took to finish a generator was a little bit longer, killers would find it easier to play killer because they had a 4th perk available, like a 4th slot available to use for chasing, for tracking, for whatever they need.
But Ruin needs to be gone if that's going to be the case.
What do you mean, like the old Ruin?
Do you think that it's compatible to keep the current Ruin, the one we have right now, the old Ruin, and those changes?
Yes, If Ruin gets nerfed like it is right now, and they increased the charges by like 10 seconds or maybe even 15 seconds, then I think it would be better.
Here's
It would
my
be
ar-
healthier. It would be sorry for interrupting, but it would be
Yeah, no.
healthier for newer survivors because they could play the game, and it would make first off solo queue games a lot more bearable, and it wouldn't change that much with Survivor with Friends. That's all I really have to say about that.
I just think that like right now, I think adding gen time would be one of the worst things that they can do ever. Because I think right now the average game, like the average ragtag group of survivors that you get, are pretty easy to beat. And I think that's a pretty interesting thing that I wanted to like ask about is like I'm really interested in Otz, your opinion on this too, because every time I bring this up in my own stream and I talk about how like, hey, I can play Wraith with no perks and like play like 10 games at rank 1, and most of those games I'll probably be able to 4K, not because I'm like some kind of like untouchable god, just because the average group of like survivors isn't always the best. Even at rank 1, they're not like the best. They're not like gen slamming, perfectly looping. Like they make a lot of mistakes. Like, you know, they're totally beatable even without ruin, right? So if you change gens and make them take longer just across the board, sure, those like small amount of games where survivors are god tier, you know, and like borderline unbeatable, sure, those will be a little bit better. But then all those other games where survivors are already beatable, they're just going to be miserable, man. Like they're going to feel like they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Which is rough. I'm curious, how is it, Odds? Because people tell me that that Europe is really bad for like getting sweaty groups of survivors or whatever. So I'm curious on your opinion.
I honestly think there's been a shift. And I would like to, you know, ask other people as well, but you are very well familiar with the fact that the matchmaking has changed lately and that more and more survivors make it to the red ranks. I find people in the red ranks now that say half a year ago, I would have been like, oh, this is a rank of like, is this rank reset? Like, this is a rank of like a lobby of rank 20s or rank 15s. Like now I see people at red rank that just seem really out of place. That make like they try to hide against Legion when I'm with my frenzy.
Yeah, rank has never been
and okay, that happened occasionally. Okay, you would have the one guy who, you know, maybe has played for like 300 hours, have never played against the Legion. Okay, like these really odd plays that you understand. This person has 200 hours in the game or 100 hours and just doesn't know what they're doing, and they're in red ranks. It is very true though that before the rank reset rework. And before the matchmaking changes, after the rank reset, let's say that everyone gets sent back to rank 11 or rank 12. A few days after that in Europe, you would get like you would get a percentage of survivors that were really good. That was like quite unusual, and it was like wow. I play 10 games, and in half there's like 1 or 2 good survivors that really give you a good run. And you're like, holy shit, this guy's already at rank 2. Like a day after the reset, you know?
Like it's always been a thing. Just like a day after rank reset, the people that are rank 1.
Yeah, exactly. And that would happen. Lately? No. Very, very like red rank. I play red rank at like rank 1, rank 2 if I play if there's DCs or whatever, or if I have a bad game. So I'm almost red rank all the time. And you're right, like the average game is like it's like a shit show.
Yeah.
It's like a shit show. Like there's people there that don't belong. There's constant rank 13s, rank 15s, where you're like, oh, okay, so that's what that Claudette was a dumbass because she's like a rank 19. Like it makes sense, right? So no, I wouldn't say the game is hard to play right now at all. Like it's exactly as you say. Like the average survivor is like the average lobby of survivors is like really unorganized. It's not that bad. Yeah, you do get your sweaty team sending you to like 3 different map offerings at once with keys and everything. Yeah, that still happens. But no, on average, I would say the game's not particularly difficult. Like I've been playing all the killers without ruin, like with no add-ons. It's not been such a struggle, I don't think.
So I think we all agree, like the rune changes were done probably to make the new experience better, or for less experienced players, just to make it bearable, right? Can we at least agree?
Like quality of life.
I honestly think there's like a different point to it, not just the new players, which is a part, which is like if everyone is doing the same thing, that thing is pointless. You guys know how in chess the first pawn like moves two squares. Like every time you move a pawn, you can move it twice.
Yeah,
that didn't used to be like that. like many centuries ago, like they moved only one square, and every game of chess would be like pawn moves one square, pawn moves one square, pawn moves one square, pawn moves one square. It was so boring that eventually we're like, okay, let's just make the first one move twice, so that we don't have to have this repeat. It's like you play a soccer match, and both teams start with one goal already on the score.
Well,
Like it doesn't make sense. You like things that are always going to be like that. You just take them away out of the equation. If every game is going to have ruin, and the equation here is clear, like 85%. If it's every game is going to have ruin, you might as well just remove ruin, and work it into the base game somehow.
all right.
See,
So
that's interesting though, because they didn't actually do any compensations for getting rid of it.
Ah,
So that makes me feel like it wasn't that. I feel like if it was that, they would have like made a compensation to make ruin quote unquote permanent or default or whatever.
Okay.
right, but it's actually, I was going to get into that. Like the whole thing is, I think they're trying to just like, it's not even just new players. The thing they're trying to do is just remove things that are unfun. I think like we can all agree, just holding M1 on a gem with ruin is just, that's the most boring part of the game for survivors. It's like by far the thing that they want to do the least, just hold M1 on a gen. So they're making that, not as big of an issue in order to make it more fun for the survivors. And I understand why they would want to do that. It just seems like in doing that, like they're not like looking at the whole thing that it's okay. I'm like losing track. Okay, so maps basically, you guys all know that I think this. Maps are basically, I think, the reason that ruin is necessary. I say necessary. It's very nice because you can't physically get places on huge maps. That's how I've always felt. But when you have like a perk like this, it's just man, I don't know where I'm going with this now. I just think it's all about the maps and
How big they are.
like it works in some places and it doesn't work in others. You don't need ruin and chapel.
right.
You need it on Orman.
Like if all the maps,
ruin, it's more with Orman.
right? If all the maps were like coal tower size or record yard size or something like that, I would never run ruin to begin with because I can actually physically get there and get people off the gens. And that's the whole point of the perk. That way, the whole fun of Dead by Daylight is the interaction between the killer and the survivor. And no one wants to sit on a gen. And if you have smaller maps and things like that, the killer can interact with the survivors more, which means the survivors go down. Other survivors have to interact with other players more. Everyone's doing more stuff that's fun. And they don't have to worry about room because the killer can actually stop people from doing things by getting there. And I think that's the correct solution, not making gen times longer, but making the killer able to apply his skill more frequently, because there's no skill in just running to the other end of Red Forest. That anyone can do that, but making so the killer is rewarded for his skill better and more frequently is, I think, how you fix it.
So, do we? Are you guys okay with the idea that not just ruin, but any perk is present in like 85% of the matches? I could understand barbecue because everybody loves blood points.
It's like
I could understand that one.
Yeah,
but like, are we okay with, other than blood points? Are we okay with any one perk being in 85% of the games? Because I think that's like a sin.
I
cannot bear that thought. I cannot bear it. It's like there was a fighting game with like 60 fighters, and one of them was in like half the games. It's like, wait, what? Like, what? That just doesn't make, like, what is so good about that, and what must be so terrible about the other ones for one to touch them with like a 5-foot pole? And there's so many perks like that right now.
Yeah,
for
I agree.
both sides. Both sides.
I think that's definitely not.
Really, if we remove the need for ruin, either with maps, either with gen speed, either with something else, then you actually can run 4 perks.
Okay, here I kind of have a lot of thoughts about this, and it's hard to articulate them all because it's all so everywhere. It's so out there.
Yeah,
it is.
There's a lot of process.
There really is. But here's my thoughts on it. Okay, so we established that like your average game right now, you don't necessarily need ruin to win. Your average game, right? Like your average ragtag group of survivors, even without ruin, if you just play the game well, you can win. But I think the thing is that those games where you can't win, or like even if it's not that you can't, but it's like ridiculously hard, where like maybe like we would win because we have like thousands of hours, but like someone that's still learning killer, that isn't quite at our level yet, who like, feels like they should still be able to win a red rank game, just gets annihilated and they feel like they barely had a chance. I think that just feels so bad. Like, even if you're still winning, but like, even if you're winning like 60, 70, 80% of your games, those games where like you feel like you play well, but you still get annihilated,
it's the worst.
feels so, it's so demoralizing.
That's all
it's
you
like,
remember.
I'm gonna-
it's like, why even bother playing when I like, you know, if I get the right group of survivors, I lose no matter what. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you a question. Maybe you were going to segue into something else, and I'll let you go into it, Bird.
Yeah, feel free.
Like, okay, think about a game like the last game like that, where you felt, wow, like, damn, I did really well, and despite that, I lost the game so badly, and they were just so comfortable. They like, when do you lose that game? I honestly think that in 90% of the cases, those situations are the first couple gens. It's that the first gens went too quickly. I think almost all of us would agree that the gen speed of gen number 4, number 5, or number 3 are fine. It's the first 2 gens that you lose that really, really set the tone for the rest of the game. And you're like,
that's a simple change that they can make. I've noticed just make people spawn not right on top of gens as a group. Like, I think that's really easy to fix.
It can go further than that. We had the community manager of Dead by Daylight, the lead community manager, Queen. She was on my stream the other day while we were chatting all this. I think she was like gauging like the interest and like the reaction. And I asked the chat, okay, would you want to see Ruin or a perk like Ruin in 85% of the matches? And they said, no, we would like more variety. Makes sense. And I asked, how would we fix Ruin? Should we make other perks as strong as Ruin? Or should we make the effect of Ruin somehow more part of the game? And most people, surprisingly, they said the effect of Ruin should be more part of the base game. And what I think would be very, very helpful for the health of the game would be to have like a reverse end game. And this is what Queen suggested. She asked, how would this work? And I think it would be brilliant. Have a reverse end game collapse. Have an end games assemble or an end game begin and a start. A minute of the match where gens can be worked on, but they are much, much slower to be worked on. Maybe they move at like 50% the normal speed. So if you want to waste your toolbox on it, you can do it, but you're going to have obviously a much harder time. During that time, now survivors that decide to use stealth and use well can stealth their way past the initial resistance and then do gens normally. Survivors who bring plunderers can now find a chest or an offering for a chest, can now find a chest and get an item that will help them later. Survivors who have inner strength now can cleanse totems and know it is not such a big deal. Survivors that are good at running, they can go around and see, okay, there's a pallet here, the gut window there. All right, I can later in the match I can use this. So you would have the very fine, very okay gen speed later into the game, still unaffected, but the first minute or two, the killer would have a guaranteed no gens are gonna pop in like 20 seconds.
But then you can also have the scenario where corrupt intervention people just hide and wait. And
yeah, I feel like that's the
point. That's the point. What happens if they do that? If you're a setup killer, great. You now have 6.
All right, if you're not Hag or Trapper, then what?
Okay,
you're just
if
bored.
you're not Hag or Trapper, now you have an incentive instead of running Ruin to run Whispers and learn how to use it, or to run Discordance and learn how to use it later, or to run all of these other perks that you can be using instead, right?
But then we're gonna have Whispers in every game, and we have the same problem with Ruin.
Yeah, we would have Whispers in every game, and like stealth killers would be ran all the time probably to get that early game value of being stealth. I think it's an interesting idea, but I do think it has a lot of issues in itself too. But yeah, I think it would also have.
I think
a lot of
anything
problems.
that makes gens take longer is just not the right way to go. It's just the worst part of the game for.
But how would you ever convince people to do the things that are auditing the game? Because we're talking about we should flip switches and we should get parts for the generators. If there's all these side objectives in the game, the totems, the chests, and people ignore them.
They're not objectives. They're
side objectives, I guess. Yeah, they're like props. Should they have more of an emphasis? How would we do this then?
There are 2 objectives in the game for survivors. There's hold them 1 on gens and there's hold them 1 on exegates. That's pretty much what it is. Basically, it's generators, though. Mm-hmm. I think with the Ruin change, if Ruin gets changed and then it'll compensate extra charges on generators, I feel like they could make holding them 1 just a bit more entertaining. I know that sounds really dumb, but hear me out. If they made it that great skill checks appeared more consistently and also awarded more charges, like to remove more charges for the generators, would be great, and it wouldn't make the gens go too fast because once again you're adding extra charges to the generator itself. So hitting great skill checks would be really satisfying, and there's a skill cap instead of just holding M1 and hitting normal skill checks. And make it maybe less RNG, maybe somehow make it that's not RNG at all and it's really consistent.
Maybe you could get some of those reverse skill checks in the final 30% of the gen, like just making skill checks more.
I like the idea.
Yeah, something like that. Just something like that.
Skill based.
It would be neat. You would
Somehow.
definitely have to make sure it wasn't heavy RNG, because if it was, then like, and you got someone that was good, they could maybe just nail like 10 skill checks.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like,
you
gen
guys
insta done.
remember when Ghostface first came out, and you could reveal him by just looking at him for like one instance?
Oh yeah.
I had an idea there that I think could be good now, where it kind of pissed me off because I'm like, how am I ever going to use my power if a survivor sitting on a gen is like constantly scanning around the map, right, and seeing what's going on? And I thought to myself, why don't skill checks appear physically on top of the generator, so that now a survivor will have to, rotate between looking at the generator in case they get a skill check, but also looking away. And if they hear the song, they need to like the little sound cue. They need to quickly look back,
I mean,
so that
it's
it's
a cool
bit more
idea, but it
unnerving.
really only benefits like 3 killers and like a perk or 2.
It sounds just a little bit complicated. This game is simple. You gotta, this game is very simple with cool, interesting things you can do in the game.
Okay,
I stay that way.
I love the idea. Like, I love the idea of like spicing up objectives or even adding secondary objectives. But here's my problem with all of this: is no matter what you do, like, there's still like a set amount of time that it takes to do the objectives, right? Like, whether you add secondary objectives or whether you make the objectives like more fun, there's still the problem where like the objective gets done in X amount of time, and that amount of time is not healthy for the game based on how it currently is, because if you get good survivors, they'll get that objective. Like, even if you're like, okay, let's take 20 seconds off gens, but then also make it so that survivors have to gather gas or something, or go get parts for a gen, or whatever dumb things you want to do. Like, that would still mean that in general there would still be like a set amount of time to do the gens, and it would probably still be too fast. I think, in my opinion, the biggest issue that causes this to be a thing is, I mean, again, we all come back to this all the time, but I think it's the maps. I think there's really no true way to ever make it right until maps are fixed. Like, you can do whatever you want. Like, you can add gen time and make all the casual survivors miserable, but then help out against like the sweaty tryhard survivors, or you can leave it the way it is and have like the sweaty tryhard survivors win every game that they play, and like make killers that play against them miserable. But there's really no way to fix both sides unless you change maps. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think
why haven't they done it already?
Well, I think the thing that needs to be done with maps, I don't think it's just the size. That's the thing. I actually disagree with Scott in this. I do think that size does matter.
Oh, I'm not saying that's the only thing. It's a lot of the setups you can get to.
No, I think in general the tiles are just way too strong. Like, I think, like, for instance, the fact that like I would say like pretty much any map that isn't like Hawkins or Badham or like possibly like New Lery's, like almost every other map, if you're a good survivor, you can literally, like, no matter where you are, there's like a chain of safe pallets where you can just go drop the pallet early, force a kick, go to the next one, drop it early, force a kick, go to the next one. Like, you don't even really have to loop it and like conserve it. Like, kind of like Ussylis was saying earlier, like
that's really, like, you realize, like, as a killer, if you were in a situation like that where you were chasing a survivor who was just playing it perfectly safe, you often had like Ruin to back you up, and we're like, okay, by the time I finally catch you, they'll have done one gen. But now that you might not even have that. Survivors who play it super safe are gonna be so hard to deal with.
That's exactly my point, and that's the problem. That's the problem with maps, is that they're too safe. If there was more pallets, like Badham, I think was way too far. They made the pallets on Badham like dog shit. They are so bad. Like, they're so hard to use as a survivor. But I think like Badham, for instance, like Badham's like street pallets, not the ones in the buildings. The ones in the buildings are nuts. I think the buildings in general in Badham are really strong, but like the street pallets on Badham, like the ones out in the streets, are amazing. Like, they're like, if you're a good survivor going against like a not so good killer, you can outplay them. You can get a lot of good use out of them. You can get enough space to go to the next one and use it. But as a killer, if you're a skilled killer going against a skilled survivor, you actually can get a hit. I think I said it backwards. I'm talking about Badham street pallets. My bad if I said it backwards. I'm not sure. People in chat are yelling at me. But yeah, like I think that's a really important part of the game. I think if you're like a good killer, right? Like say you're the best killer in the game, right? And you're going up against the best survivor in the game, and you're playing a tile. You guys should have an equal chance of like, you should have an equal chance of getting a hit, and he should have an equal chance of getting enough distance to get away and get to the next pallet based off outplaying each other through like fake vaults, you know, looping, fake vaults, mind games. There should be an even chance there. And right now there is not. There is not an even chance. As a killer, if they make it to the pallet, you're just like, well, gotta kick it and go to the next one. And then you get to the next one, he drops it, and you're like, gotta kick it and go to the next one.
You brought up a really good point.
And over and over.
It basically, without the additional game delay, people like usually like, you know, like we say megaheads or people, they just run to pallets and drop them. Those people should be penalized because, you know, in a couple of minutes, the map is incredibly unsafe and now everyone's screwed. But without any form of game delay, people can play like that and it doesn't matter.
It's going to be the new meta, honestly. That's going to be meta now. You
That
just
was
drop Shack Pallet, dude. Fuck Shack Pallet. Drop it in 5
It's going to be
minutes.
so boring.
Yeah.
That was already borderline the meta already, I think, in a way.
Yeah, I think even before Ruin, I think it's still like why even play risky? Like if you literally just drop every pallet and your team is really working on gens.
Like, you go like I think you guys are the same. How many times have you won a game because the survivor just wants to preserve that one pallet? They want to make that one good play and they just get M1 in the face. Because you just outplay them slightly. Whereas if you know for a fact that if they draw the pallet and played it safe, those extra 10 seconds you take to catch up to them, all the gens are done in that time. Because
sometimes almost worse players end up doing better for the team. Yeah, that's frustrating as hell.
I agree. It's very frustrating from a killer side to be like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing and just throwing pallets, but it's like working and it sucks. Agreed. And I think that's a problem of the pallet strength. I think that's a huge problem.
But I still have a burning question, which is, I think developers identify things correctly and assess things correctly when it comes to some things, like the Ruin change. I think they were right in, you know, changing it. But what about the maps? Are they really making any progress? Because I feel like every time a new map comes out, we're like, oh yeah, this is just as bad. Oh my god, this is worse. I feel like there's no. I
actually do. I think Batum was a huge step in the right direction. I think Hawkins was actually a step in the right direction, even though people will disagree. I think they were experimenting with Hawkins. I don't think Hawkins is necessarily good, but I think like the pallets in Hawkins were like a big like experimental move by them. Like they're trying something different. They're trying to fill a map with a bunch of pallets, but those pallets are unsafe, you know? And like, yeah, it didn't quite work as well. I think honestly, I think Hawkins would be good if Bloodlust didn't exist. If I'm going to be honest, I think it probably would be pretty good.
Well, here's the thing. Do you prefer the because I hate those because like the whole mind game with Hawkins pallets is like, you know, they drop the pallet and then, you know, you start because you don't want to kick it, it's unsafe. So you go around, then they fake the vault and they keep running, or they don't fake it and you commit, you down them. That's like the game right there. Do you prefer that, or do you prefer like the classic T-wall, L-wall, you know, like line of sight break, regular jungle gyms where you can actually like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely prefer maze tiles, but as far as like line of sight pallets, I mean, if you would compare those pallets to other ones, like they would be comparable to like the open field Blood Lodge ones, right? And it's kind of the same aspect in there. Like if they drop a pallet there, it's still like they'll loop it, fake vault it. It's just like a guessing. And I think that a big thing with Hawkins pallets that people don't realize is that Hawkins pallets are more powerful when they're up. Like you want to get the stun on those. Like you want to like bait out pallet respect. Like killers are more likely to respect the pallet because they don't want to get stunned because they know it's unsafe. So baiting out pallet respect is good. Getting the actual stun and then during the stun animation, getting the fuck out of dodge is like the best way to play them. But then that's a mind game in itself where like you got to predict whether the killer is going to eat the stun or whether they're going to go around. And then you know it kind of has like a little bit of play before the drop and also a little play after the drop. My main issue is that no matter what you do right now, eventually the killer's just gonna get bloodlust. Yeah, like he's just gonna get faster and faster. Like even if you outplay them, he's just gonna get faster and faster and faster. Then eventually you're dead. So, like I don't know.
Which some people are very okay with, by the way. You got to realize many people are of the mentality that, you know, since you're in a 1 versus 4 scenario, you should have a backup to always guarantee a down, and that should be natural. Which I don't know.
Do you guys agree with that?
I disagree with that. I don't think if the killer's vastly better than you, then they should be able to down you faster. If you're, if you need to have a skill component. You should never be guaranteed anything. I think one survivor should legitimately be able to run a killer for 5 gens if he's vastly better. Like we're talking a huge skill difference.
Yeah, it shouldn't be just a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, of course. But like as soon as you say they should be guaranteed a down, you introduce a very scary old Legion scenario where doesn't matter how good you are, you're gonna go down. Like
why would you ever want to play Survivor if like it doesn't matter how good you are, you're just gonna go down? Like, and especially considering how kills work in this game with camping. Like if it wasn't for the fact that there's a chance that you could also get face camped or like tunneled to death off hook, no one's gonna want to play the game where it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter how good I am, I'm gonna go down after a certain amount of time, and then I might get camped and tunneled. So like I'm not even gonna be able to play the game. Like I don't think that's good for this guy unless they completely change the way how killing works.
You actually brought up a really good point, because one thing I like to do when I play killer is try to establish parallels, because there are some, right? For example, I think it's very fair to compare keys to Moris. Moris, sure, can be a bit stronger because they can be used earlier, but it's like, okay, I'm taking a shortcut. I don't want to sacrifice you 3 times, hook you 3 times. I'm just going to hook you once and then I can kill you. And it's like a shortcut. That's not fun for the survivors. Whereas for the killers, you sweat your balls off to barely keep up with survivors. They're at 1 gen, now 3 people escape with the key, which also feels like you've been cheated. So I see these parallelisms, and the way I see Ruin is like an insurance, where the game is not going to end too quickly, right? And I think the survivors also have a bit of an insurance where their life is not going to end too quickly, which is Decisive Strike, which I think is like the Ruin equivalent for survivors, which is like, you're trying to take a shortcut right now, down me after a hook and then hook me immediately and then just camp me. I'm not gonna give you that because I have 1 minute of immunity. How do you guys feel about that one? And should it ever get the Ruin treatment?
Decisive Strike, you mean?
Yes. Should it be part of the base game so that not every survivor has to fear to getting tunneled immediately?
I do think that DS is like kind of I think that it needs tweaks, but I do think it is sort of a necessary evil, just because, to be perfectly honest, and I hate saying this out loud in front of a bunch of people, but honestly, the best strategy as killer is to tunnel one guy to death as fast as you can and get him out of the game.
It is 100% the best strategy.
Like, I hate saying that because it's like the least fun way the game is ever played ever. Like, it's awful whenever that's how the game is played, but that's really the best. Like, if you want map pressure, getting someone out of the game and making it a 3v1 is like the best way to do it. So you kind of need and because that's so unfun, you kind of need something there to like help against that. You know what I mean?
The thing. When DS is used in the proper way to prevent tunneling, I'm all for it. That's a perfectly fine perk and it's great.
Agreed.
It's when people like rub it in your face and go in a locker and you're like, fuck you. It's like, oh god, that annoys me.
Yeah, like they run right up to you after getting unhooked and then they teabag and jump in a locker and you're like, okay, dick, I get it.
Yeah.
You're untouchable. I get it. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But how do you balance it to where that's not a possibility?
I think I identified the problem really well. Like, tunneling a person out of the game immediately is by far the best strategy.
Sure.
And I don't know about you guys, but later into the game, I'm constantly thinking about like the value of each hook. If there's a guy that I haven't hooked the entire game and I don't have Pop Goes the Weasel, I get nothing out of hooking that person.
Yep.
Nothing. You're going to waste your time to chase that, let's say it's the obsession. Chase the obsession, down them, you hook them, and because they're on their first hook, it's worthless. They're going to have a BT out of the hook, adrenaline out of the hook, Decisive Strike out of the hook, and into the exit gates. You just don't want to bother with that person ever. You have no incentive, other than maybe barbecue stacks, to play fair and spread the damage. Sure. Should there be incentives to make the killer behavior a bit healthier? Should the killers be rewarded more for hooking every survivor, not just the barbecue stacks? In terms of like ranking points,
they already
like
are,
in-game advantages. They're not.
Well,
like
with emblem points, technically, if you just tunnel all
barely,
everybody.
Like
I know, I'm saying with emblem points. Who gives a shit? But that's
like,
what they designed.
You want to get a guaranteed bronze in one emblem and then lose the game, or you want to just kill everyone and when there's 2 survivors, you just torture them for 20 minutes so you get gold and everything or iridescent everything.
Right, yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's designed like that.
But
dumb.
not everybody cares about emblems.
Like no one cares about emblems.
You can do the same with points. Like you can just kill one survivor, be a complete dick to that survivor. Then the other 3, now that you're super comfortable in the game, just take your time, break every pallet, slug them a little bit.
That's what a lot of people do, actually.
Exactly. So should the killers be rewarded more for, keeping survivors
how do you do
alive
that?
and
Yeah, I think there should definitely be some incentives, whether it's like punishing
Okay.
or
yeah,
or
I
rewarding.
honestly think that
agree.
if you're not running Pop Goes the Weasel, hooking people is worthless. Like it's nearly worthless. At the start of the game, when you have time and you accumulate hooks over the end, and they're like, okay, this guy's done a hook now. This is worth the effort because I'm going to take him out of the game. That's great. But hooking people, like especially late game, people who have never been hooked before because they hit the entire game, it's worthless. The time it takes for you to pick them up, to walk to the hook, to put them there, giving everyone a notification of where you are, where you're going to be for the next few seconds. That's so much time. The slugging is just so much more efficient. And it begs the question, why doesn't like hooking a survivor give that survivor like a debuff for the rest of the game? So that you're like, you're more in the mindset of like early on, it's like, okay, I'm going to get everybody hooked and then everyone will have this debuff or I'll get this little advantage for having everybody hooked. And something that it's not just like your charitable soul being like, okay, I'm going to be nice and I'm going to hook everyone. Because I have so many games where I'm like, all right, we're at 4 gens, let's just hook everyone. And I end up losing it because, I'm an idiot. And I didn't just focus down on one survivor. That one survivor who was dead on hook since the beginning, I'd never see him again for the rest of the game. And yeah, I feel like killers should be incentivized a little bit more not to be a complete dick. And I don't think we're achieving that very well.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough though because it's hard to like. You got to remember that like anything you implement, you got to keep in mind like I think like the quality of life thing. Like if you're introducing a mechanic that isn't fun, then it's going to be really bad. But I do think that like in general that is a good thing. I don't really have a good suggestion myself, but I think it would be cool, yeah, to give you incentive to not tunnel down one guy to death. Like that shouldn't be the right play. Like that should never be like, as a killer you be like, this is what I should do to win, is fuck this one guy, fuck his experience, like tunneling him to death and killing him is my best move. Like that should not be it, I don't think.
Okay, I have a crazy dumb idea, which would be might be like the dumbest thing I've come up with. What if each survivor didn't have to be hooked 3 times, but instead any hook that you got on any survivor counted towards a goal, and at certain goals one of them died, whichever one you picked up.
Like,
so if I hook Meg and I hook Claudette and I hook Dwight and then I hook David dies.
no, then the David would be pissed off.
Yeah,
and
the
He would be
David-
super pissed.
no,
But
that's a bad idea.
there would have been 4 hooks before him.
I think
Honestly,
Five or 6 or whatever.
honestly, I would be down
And,
with
and
that.
there would not be another sacrifice for another 3 hooks or whatever amount.
I would be down with
Just
that.
think about-
No, only if all 4 survivors died at once. That's the only way. Like only if like none of them died until they all died. Then
Yeah, what
maybe.
if you get like a terrible team and then you get hooked once and die? That's worse than getting tunneled. That's like,
Yeah, I think that would.
work.
It's an interesting concept. I like where you're thinking. Like it's a neat concept, but I think the only way it could work is if all 4 people died at once, and that's it. Like I don't know.
it's that same shitty feeling when a Myers that stalked everybody.
Yeah.
On you.
I get it. No,
Like I didn't do anything wrong here. What the? It's like,
No, but what I'm trying to say is that obviously I'm not saying, oh, this is great, implemented tomorrow, but like some form of that where if you've been fair, you have something. Right now, you could have double hooked everyone except that one last guy, and then you've been super fair. The exegates are being powered. You hook a guy, and he comes out of of the hook with adrenaline, with BT, and with DS, and that person is just unkillable. And it doesn't matter how nice you've been, you cannot kill anybody now, despite
but the
having
longer
like
the
10
match
hooks.
goes on, the more you get to torture people for the entity. That's the lore reason. That's
See
all
you
the
later in
whole
the
game is
fog.
based around.
Hmm.
It's
That's actually what the
definitely-
game is based on. That's like what the emblems are. Because if you kill everyone so fast that you don't extract pain or whatever,
But
like the lore thinks on them.
that goes against everything as well. It doesn't make
I
any
know.
sense because like if you run an endgame build, yeah, they're looking into it, but you get absolutely demolished. Like you get nothing. You bought Bloodwarden, Remember Me and whatever, and you wanted to have an endgame, and you don't care about the gen speed, then you get punished. So it's not like we can pretend like, oh yeah, the game really wants us to like stretch out the games, because almost everything like kills, points. If the game goes too quickly, you get nothing.
You guys remember Ruin? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Like we were talking about Ruin. What the fuck?
Yeah,
I like completely like, oh my god, I was zoned out. I was like, what are we? Oh my god, like
I actually wanted to go back.
I love the passion. I love the passion that we're talking about this game, but
Yeah,
You know,
we
sometimes
definitely.
I was super overloaded. Like, oh my god, I was gonna say the point of like when I don't even know what we're talking about, but the point I was trying to make is, what are we basing this game off? Are we basing this game off of like the best killer going as the best survivor? Is it like should the killer get 2 kills? Should the killer get no kills? Like, what's
Well,
the balance here? Like,
that's a whole new debate
Yeah.
on what a win is. That's
but we have to go back to this point if we're talking about like small changes like ruin, for example. Like, we kind of have to,
That's
because
what's
if
yeah.
it's
But-
super hard, because if the killer is supposed to get, oh my god, it's just too much. This game is too special. This game is so special.
It
It's
is.
so hard. Like you talk about any little
Okay.
thing in like
and
yeah.
here's that why that question isn't enough, because you could like imagine Scott plays a game where he plays extremely well, against extremely good survivors. He makes the best plays ever, hooks a guy, hooks another guy, by the end of the game, he's basically hooked everyone. He kills a guy, and then he manages to get a second kill, and wow, what a game. That was super intense. He got 10 hooks, and every pallet in the map was gone, and that was a really hard fought, game on both sides. That's great. 2 kills. Perfect. That would be fine. And then there's Tofu, who catches a Claudette at the start of the game with Leatherface, stares at her for 2 minutes, has Noid, works a guy, and face camps in the basement while the 2 guys exit through the exit gates. And the game is over in 3 minutes. That's 2 kills as well. So who's better, Tofu or Scott? Those were completely different games. And we cannot just base it on kills. That's why it just baffles me that as a killer, you can do so many hooks, so many pallet breaks, so many generator defenses, and still end with the same result. You could sweat your fucking balls off to get 1 kill, and then there could be a guy who just camps and has Noid and gets 4 kills at the end, just like that.
Yeah, I just think
Which
with
is-
the amount of variables in this game, it's impossible. It'll never be done. It'll never be balanced properly. The matchmaking will never be perfect. The ranking system will never be perfect. It's just, there are too many variables.
Which is why I think it's important that things just need to be good quality of life. I think acknowledging the fact that balance is never going to be perfect, I think time should be put into making the quality of life good, which is why I'm glad that it seems like that's their intention with a lot of this, is just making quality of life better. And if they keep doing that, I think it's going to be good. I don't think the balance is ever going to be perfect.
So then you agree that this game should be looked at as a casual game, not competitive whatsoever.
Yes.
Do we all
would say that, yes.
agree that this game is casual and it's supposed to be casual?
Yes.
I disagree somewhat. I feel like this game has a depth that we're all well aware of. I mean,
Exactly.
because we played for hours and hours on end, and I think Ussylis and I are going to agree a bit more on this and see eye to eye, where we think that if the game is played casually on both ends, that should be fun and engaging and great. But if one side plays serious and the other side plays serious, that should still hold up. The game shouldn't completely fall apart when one of the sides takes it a little bit seriously. It should hold up.
But you can't do that though. You can't unless it's an organized tournament setting. How are you going to do that?
We're not. I don't think we're saying that should hold up perfectly under every circumstance. But what I'm saying is there should my main gripe with the game is the fact that there are things that are so extreme. There's such a difference between survivors with no items and survivors with 4 good toolboxes, or a killer with no add-ons, or a killer with the best add-ons with a Mori or with a map offering. That utter discrepancy is insane. You go into a Counter-Strike game and you know that they're going to have these guns or these guns or these guns. They're not going to come up with a fucking helicopter in round 1.
That's why I hate when people compare this to other games. Well, this game does this with their matchmaking, so they should do that with this. There's nothing like this game. It's so far away from everything else. You can't.
That's true, but you have to focus on the health of this game. You see, there are 2 different types of people. I've talked about this so many times, and I'm very curious on what you guys think about this. This game has such a split community. There are people who don't care about Disconnect because they realize it's a fun game. And there's people who take this game to heart, which is understandable. I get both sides. And there's people on the other side that want to play this game seriously. They want to rank up, or they just, want people to play more serious. They want to have the satisfaction of winning or playing well. That's the issue. When you play Dead by Daylight, you're not playing, you could be playing with people who take the game seriously, and you could be playing the game who are not taking the game seriously. So there's 2 different queues. Right? I feel like there should be 2 different queues, because since the community, I know everybody hates that, but since the community is so split, there's a lot of people who quit in the game because too many people are either too casual, and there's some people who are playing the game that they're too competitive. That's the main issue. And I know that this game will never be like another game where there can be a rank queue, a casual queue, but that it's so hard to like think of. Like, I have respect for behavior. I don't know how the shit they're supposed to please their community. It's so difficult.
The thing is, though,
I
if you
think
actually
he makes a
had,
great point. Actually, he makes a great point.
You upset the people who want ruin. Like you nerf ruin, you're gonna get shit. If you keep ruin, people are gonna talk shit about it. People are always gonna be displeased just because of how split this community is, and they can do things to fix it. They can do things. Obviously, it goes a long way to fixing the core issues with the game, which takes a lot of commitment.
the
but-
problem with 2 different game modes, though, if you have like a competitive mode, wouldn't that just be miserable for everybody? That's just Maury's on Iridescent Head on killer side, and
they would have
boxes
to-
on the other side.
they
It's
would
just
have to-
suck for
know,
everyone.
here's the thing. Okay, you could add regulations or some kind of special rules, but at least you would know what you're getting. At least in theory. I think one of the worst feelings in this game is when you go to do your clown daily with bitter murmur and that one perk that you've never seen in your bloodware before, and 2 brown add-ons, and you're expecting to have a good time, and then last second on the countdown and the lobby switches to 4 Claudettes with AK-47s and all the you feel betrayed. You're like, okay, I was going into this game about to chill, with my best intentions, wanting to do my little daily or my archive challenge, and here I go against a death squad that's like
You gotta have a 6-second killer swap ready. I always have that. If I suspect it, I have a Huntress with Iridescent Head ready at all times, so I can 6-second swap as well.
All right. Well, maybe you're John Wick, and you can switch to your go-to murder machine. But I don't know. I feel very betrayed when I play like that, and it's the same way for Survivor. You're like, okay, I'm gonna use my double blood points, and I sure hope this killer wants to be nice. Maybe he'll give me the hatch at the end, and it's just a Freddy with like these god awful add-ons that just out to get you and moors you 30 seconds into the game. And it feels awful. And if you I think Ussylis has a good point, because if you knew what you were going into, you would be prepared at least. I would be like, okay, we're playing competitive. All right, fuck it. What's the best I can possibly bring? Okay, the killer's always going to be the same, so we're going to be an even match. Oh, we're playing casual. All right, in casual, these things are disabled or these things are enabled. I can bring that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think a big thing too would be just like banning certain things, right? Like you could, like so many other games that have comp game modes have, like I used to play Black Ops 2 League play back in the day, and there were so many banned things that you couldn't use. You know what I mean? Like they only allowed you to use certain things, and I think that would be
instead of balancing the game, they just constantly change the things that were and were not allowed, right?
Yeah, but and it would also take them a lot of like rebalancing, and like they would have to balance around it. But I think that the biggest issue that I think have with it right now would be just the fact that the player base. I think crossplay would need to come for that, which is like a whole nother topic that I don't really want to dive into. But hypothetically, like if crossplay was possible and it like made the player base way bigger, then I think maybe. But like right now, like look at how bad queue times are in some areas.
That's
like,
why they can't do it now.
Yeah, like
People
if they split it between 2 game modes, then like I don't know. Like
I still don't think people would even be incentivized in the first place to play the competitive mode, because I feel like that's such a, like, how often do you get that sweat deep pip squad? Like, it's not even fun for them. Why would you willingly want to do that every game?
Yeah, I don't know who would queue for it.
And what would stop those sweaty people from just queuing
on casual?
On the casual.
Right, yeah, they could still terrorize people.
It's such a good thing just to think about a perfect world where where a survivor who's a certain level of skill and certain willingness to get dirty would go against a killer that is like even and matched. But yeah, I don't know.
I know plenty of people, me and people I play with sometimes and try with friends. We want to go against good killers, and you can't get that regularly on casual. Like, well, not I'm saying casual like there's already a queue, but like you can't go in expecting to have fun against a good killer. Like, I want to be destroyed by a good killer because it's fun. It's entertaining to see how good someone can be, but it's also fun for the casual player base because like you fun messing around, loop, teabag, whatever. Like there's a lot of fun concepts in that, but I don't know. I feel like I wanted a casual and competitive queue back in the past, but now I'm like thinking like maybe that wouldn't be such a good idea. There's a lot of issues with this game, but then I think about that, but it's special. which makes me like worried about the actual health of this game. How's this game gonna survive for like the next 3 years? I know like when the game first came out, you could Mori literally off a first down. Hillbilly could flick. Nurse came with 3 blinks by base.
And
There were
she moved
double
at
pallets and
150.
double windows, and there was like 0.1 second vaulting speed, fast vaulting. There was no such thing as medium vaulting. There was like so many crazy things back in the day. But you see the current state of the game, right? Who cares about Forever Freddy, like stuff like that? You see like the balancing improvement that they've made over the past like almost 3 years. And you've noticed that they've done a really, really good job considering the backlash that they get every single time.
Yeah, it's pretty. I would love for 1.0 to be released, like just for like a week on like April Fools or something. Just like release 1.0
That'd be
DVD
fantastic.
and be like, here, play what the game was fucking 4 years ago, and you know, tell us we've done a bad job, dicks. You know what I mean? Like don't get me wrong, the game isn't perfect, and I know that people do have justified reasons for being upset, but I agree, like it's so much better than it used to be by miles. Also,
Y'all remember instant blind flashlights?
yes, unfortunately. I wanted to ask if we
the
can.
pallet vacuum, the windows spawning all windows, the buildings having all windows open.
There's so much. There's literally so much. We can go on and on. I wanted to see if we can dial it back and get back. I love this talk, honestly. I thought it was a really good talk. But I want to see if I can dial it back and get back on point about Ruin, which I know is like we haven't talked about in like 45 minutes or something.
Like an hour.
But I do want to ask you guys, because I did want to like have a discussion about this because I was curious on your thoughts. So with new Ruin, again, this is like the Ruin that when you let go of gens, they regress at double speed. Is the new perk like new Ruin? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be strong? Is it going to be too strong, too weak? I want to like know your guys' thoughts on new Ruin. We've been talking the whole time about old Ruin and whether it should be gone or not.
I think it's gonna be good on high mobility killers, not necessarily low tier killers. Like Hillbilly with surveillance and Ruin, it's gonna give more perk builds, like interesting perk builds. They might not be meta, but they'll be interesting. You know, like. But the issue with new Ruin is that it's not an early game regression perk, which is the point of using Ruin in the first place, which is why I don't like the idea. I like the idea, sorry, but I just don't like the idea on Ruin.
I agree. It's a cool perk.
It's
just not a Ruin replacement.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I think he identified the 2 problems with it. First of all, this new Ruin is good on the killers that never needed Ruin in the first place. Billy never really truly needed Ruin the way some other killers do. And you could say that for every other killer that can use this really, really well. They never needed Ruin. So the killers such as Myers, Trapper, maybe a beginner demo Gorgon, people who want to set up or need to get up tier 1, these killers that needed a little bit of help at the beginning, they're going to really, really struggle without it now, if they were already like struggling with Ruin. So that's a bit of a shame. But the other thing is that what this perk does best is, you know, when people are starting to get dead on hook, when some people have begun to make some mistakes, when some pallets are gone, when there's less gens on the board and they need to let go of them, that's when the new Ruin really shines. And by that time, the Ruin is gone because it's a hex totem. So
it reminds me of like Lullaby, to where you have to
exactly
like, later. It's like great, but by that point, old Ruin would have done so much more.
And if you lost Ruin in 30 seconds, at least it did something. It didn't do as much as it did, but it did something. It pointed you in the direction of a survivor. It prevented like a super quick gen by 4 people at once, which can happen. And it did a number of things, right? Maybe someone missed a skill check in those 30 seconds and pointed you in the right direction thanks to Ruin. If you lose Lullaby in 30 seconds, nothing. If you lose Third Seal on 30 seconds, nothing. And if you lose New Ruin in 30 seconds, you get nothing out of it. Yeah. So it's too little reward for too much risk.
I think it's really, really strong. Like I actually think like if you can get use out of it, like okay, it's tough because like I'm a little bit biased because all the testing I did on it was on the PTB and like every single game was Lery's, and Lery's has really good totem spawns. So it's really hard to say, right? Like,
and it's a new map where
so like I can definitely say for a fact that if Ruin stays up for a while, like hypothetically, if you can get it to stay up for like 1-2 minutes, and like, you know, if you just play the match well, if you get like a few downs and get people off gens, it's crazy.
I think we can all agree the actual effect it has is really good. It's just totems, like it's just
Yeah, exactly. It's like a
How-
mid game.
How would you balance? How would you balance it? Make it like a timed perk, like Corrupt Intervention, that just lasts 3 minutes and then it's gone.
I mean,
Make it. How would you non-hex perk? How would you balance it?
There's
Okay.
two different things you can do with it. One, you could make it weaker and not make it a hex totem perk, or make it stronger. That's pretty much the only two options you can really do with it, in my opinion.
Well, if it wasn't like the whole like things regressing automatically thing, I think is like important because it makes other perks kind of like non-existent. Like you can't
Redundant.
you can't run Pop Goes the Weasel, you can't run Surge with it.
Overcharge doesn't work.
Yeah,
Use surveillance.
yeah, like surveillance works with
does
it.
work.
Yeah, but I think I think it's important that if it does break, those perks then become available type deal, you know. This might be a little bit off topic, but I think my biggest concern with this perk is that to me it seems like it's more of like a it's like a win more perk. Like if you already have map pressure, this makes the map pressure like tenfold more, right? Whereas if you have no map pressure, it does nothing. So like really what it does is it makes it so that games that you're already winning turn into complete slaughters. Whereas games that you were losing, like the amount of games where like Ruin is going to be the tipping point between winning and losing are probably going to be like small. It's probably either going to be like kill it like all 4 dead at 5 gens or like nothing at all. You know what I mean?
And it's just like what do setup killers have now? They really need Corrupt Intervention.
That's like the only early game perk left.
It's the only thing you can really run, and even Corrupt Intervention can backfire. So you're gonna really have to step up your game, because here's the thing: if I play Trapper, for example, and I let survivors, run amok, do gens for a little while with Ruin, that's 4 people potentially that are affected by Ruin. I'm getting the full value out of it, right? Because I'm letting them all 4 do gens while I set up for like a minute. Whereas another killer might only get 3 survivors, and then he's chasing the 4th, right? So Trapper, for example, would make very, very good use of Ruin because he's literally letting them do generators while he prepares. Same with Hag. Those killers don't have that anymore. And if a Hag or a Trapper begins to do that, how are the newer players going to cope with like bigger maps and setup times and killers with low mobility? Like for those people, like I feel like if we've seen the statistics of like Clown being played little, Hag being played none at all, I feel like all these killers are going to just dip lower and lower, and you're going to see more Billies, you're going to see more Spears, you're going to see more Freddy's, and all these killers that can use the new Ruin or Pop or whatever else is popular. I feel like that's going to affect. It's kind of what Ussylis said, where he's like, okay, if I don't have Ruin, then I'm never going to play Clown. I'm never going to play Leatherface. And I know many, many, many people feel like that.
Yeah, because that's kind of how it is. You play a low tier killer being better than all the other survivors, but you lose because people know how to hold them one and hit normal skill checks. Whereas if you use Ruin, you would have enough time to get those people off those gens. That's why I don't like Ruin as a perk. I feel like if you need to use that perk, it's just
and one point that I think is super, super important that someone like told me once, and it just kind of blew my mind and made me realize. I'm like, of course you don't need Ruin. Look, I'm running Corrupt Intervention, Pop Goes the Weasel, 3 Lean Tremors, and Surge. And they were like, okay, so you gave up Ruin, and now you're using 4 generator perks. So you're telling me that, Ruin, we don't need it at all. You just need to give up all your perks to defend generators and screw, having nurses or anything else you might have wanted. You now need to devote your entire strategy, your entire kit to do one thing that a single perk might have done better.
Well, I think people. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think we've all seen the suggestion before. What about if like certain totem perks had a residual effect after they were destroyed? Much weaker, but still something.
I'm okay with that. Like,
like permanently or temporarily?
Like permanently, but it's far less than what it originally did.
That's actually a really good idea.
That is a neat idea.
I've seen that a lot. I think it's actually a pretty cool idea.
So, for example, if you have
my brain,
if you had Lullaby and it was gone, they would have like a slight delay left. Or if you had
just like like you had one token
instead of blind forever, now you're only blind for 15 seconds.
Exactly. Just some small residual effect.
That would reduce the fear of like, okay, I have a wasted perk slot now.
Right.
And they spawn on top of it. And it would take out such frustration away from from like losing the totem and not being able to defend it.
They would have to change a lot of like what would you do with like Devour Hope or even like Huntress Lullaby? I feel
Well,
like there's a
Devour
lot.
Hope,
You can still
that
more
one's-
people.
that one, no, no, that was super simple because Devour Hope gives you a speed boost
After the hook, yeah.
after the hook. You
You
could
still
still
have
keep
an
that,
effect,
and
it's
it's
minor.
not a bad thing if you have 5% for 10 seconds. That's less. Sometimes that little distance is enough to get a hit after a hook on a pallet or get to a gen and pop it. It wouldn't be a complete waste anymore.
Yeah, it's a neat idea. So something I want to ask is like, okay, I think a lot of people don't realize that the reason why old Ruin was so good and like why you were talking about replacing Ruin with 4 regression perks. I think a lot of people don't realize that like early game, how important early game is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like early game is when you have no map pressure as a killer. Like map pressure is literally like what it even is how many gens or how many survivors are forced to not be doing gens, right? Like however many survivors are not doing gens, whether they're on a hook or having to go unhook or, being chased or whatever. That's what map pressure is. So early game is when you have none. There is no map pressure early game. You spawn on the map, they all can do gens, and you just can't do anything about it. So what, like, there has to be other perks that they could add, right? Like, do you think they should add more early game perks? And if so, what can they be? Because they have to be something that's healthy.
Isn't that like a problem now? Because I feel like, okay, I'm a new player. I buy the game on console, right? I ask my friends, okay, I buy Leatherface. Okay, I already have the hack, which is console, right? So now I already have Barbecue and Ruin. And with those 2 perks, every single killer could make do and have a decent build. Now, I'm going to have to make like a 16-hour guide explaining, all right, if you want to play killer, you're going to have to buy the teacher killer, which is DLC number 24, and then buy the play, which is DLC number 11, and then and killers are going to have to navigate this long list of DLC perks unless they do work out of the existing base game perks, which everyone already has access to. I think like making perks that like locking important gameplay mechanics behind perks that are only going to come for DLC seems like a risky or bad idea. Does that make sense?
I mean, it's a good point. Like, if they make an early game perk that helps early game, that's just going to make everyone have to run that perk all the time. It's just going to be the new Ruin. That's
you guys remember Metal of Man DLC?
Yes, unfortunately.
Did you see like any survivor not have that perk for like a month straight?
What do you
when
mean?
it came out, and it was so good.
Bro, that perk was so balanced, man. There's so many counters. You could
play
Not
Billy,
play them?
play Billy or Huntress. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Come on. Mom was like, OP. Come on.
Yeah, I feel like if they ever made a perk that magically, miraculously fixes every little problem, like that would just make it the new Ruin, and then we would be at square one. So
Yeah,
it
it needs to be a
base
big.
game change.
Yep, agreed.
they could actually, that's not a terrible idea. If they somehow make Monster Shrine the new Ruin, then then everybody has Monster Shrine already. Or if it's a base game perk or a new perk, they could release a small pack of perks that are base game.
That's actually an interesting topic, though, is if they change that every 3 months, is shuffling the meta, even if one perk becomes such a big deal, that bad? I know, like, I don't know if you guys have ever probably heard of it. Path of Exile is a action RPG game that Tofu loves, and it's like, it's basically, they always shift up the meta every single patch. They'll bring new abilities back to be much stronger, and even if it only lasts that patch, it just makes people get excited to try something new again, and it brings them back because they're like, "Oh, I can."
Do they
use this
have
now.
to buy DLC?
No, it's free. It's free.
That's the point here, though, isn't it? Because if it's the new Jason DLC that's behind a paywall, and now you need the new Broken Bones perk, and it's only Jason, and it's $5. That's kind of scummy.
Yeah, true.
I love that concept though of shaking up like maybe nerfing and buffing things that are like available to everyone, right? There is a lot of perks that are like global that are available to everyone that they just don't really like get much use. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them are some of the worst perks in the game. Like buff the shit out of them. Like make them insane for a short period of time if you need to. Then you go back. You can go back
They
and change them
did
later.
that already with a perk. I don't know if you guys remember. Can you know the one perk that nobody ever used because it was worthless, and now it's in like every other killer.
You're talking about killer?
Yeah, killer. There was a killer generic killer perk that got a massive buff that is now like in every other game that used to be completely worthless.
Are you like
Sloppy
memeing
Butcher.
me and you're gonna say
I
Monster
don't know.
Shrine or
Set up
something?
for a big meme.
No, Sloppy Butcher.
Oh,
good point.
Yeah, that's true. They did.
Why can't they do that with Spies from the Shadows? Make Spies from the Shadow a really fucking scary detection perk so that every game it's like, oh shit, he might have spies. Let's not disturb the birds. Do that. Give that
I
treatment
do
to like,
think they should buff the original perks.
I agree. Yeah.
and that would actually solve quite a bit because you wouldn't have to be like juggled with like DLCs and wait every 3 months to new perks, and wouldn't that be nice?
I want them to release more perks that aren't teachables. I think that would be really like unique.
That would be cool. They haven't done that since DLC
Kindred.
started, right?
Kindred
yeah,
was the
Kindred.
Kindred was the latest
And
one.
the
yeah.
hag released.
They should still
what's the
Thrill
hag?
the Hunt. Yeah,
Thrill
Thrill
the
the
Hunt.
Hunt was
Oh,
the
that's
one that
right,
wasn't.
I
yeah.
had an interesting concept. So you know how you feel like you need to use Ruin on specific maps because they're way too large, but you don't use them on like Cold Tower or anything because they're decently sized.
I mean, you don't get to choose, but ideally,
Yeah, exactly. I had an idea. Since reworking maps can be extremely long and they wouldn't even know how to do it effectively, I had this idea, right? Just a bold idea. What if they made certain generators on certain maps are, undebatably killer survivor sided, made it that those generators took just a little bit longer to do by like a couple extra seconds, and they would have like a different model or something. I think, like, obviously that's holding M1 for longer. Everyone hates that, but
But it would be an optional thing. There might be like one or two of those
it's
gens.
an optional thing.
And it would be like, oh, there's a green gen here, and everyone would know, like by convention, that green gens take 10% longer than regular gens. That's not
Just-
crazy.
I wouldn't
Just
be
an
super opposed
idea.
to that.
Yeah, and that
I
would,
thought about
that would be
doing
like
that
that would be
for
like an actual kind of smart band-aid fix.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we can do work Haddonfield, but this gen here now it's
Yeah.
a blue whatever gen. So if they want to do it, well, spend that extra time, and
Yeah.
that's not bad actually. That's quite good. You guys see any immediate problems with that?
I mean,
And
as
it
long
would
as
be
they
holding
were,
M1 for longer times.
Makes it confusing for newer players. That's it.
yeah, slightly more confusing for newer players, and
Oh,
they would
that too,
definitely
yeah.
have to be very careful about like deciding which ones are worse and making sure that they didn't like put like any like long gens in like a potential 3-gen area or something. Like they would have to be really careful about which gens they did it to. But yeah, I mean that would be.
Knowing behavior, just like that one dead zone and like a silence with that one. This thing takes 3 minutes.
Yeah.
God,
Good
Jen.
luck. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's a neat idea. Like a lot of
It's a
little
cool
things
idea.
like that could help. Yeah.
Also, just wanted to quickly say one argument I keep seeing a lot is if you remove Ruin from people. Well, point is if you nerf Ruin, if you have Ruin, you just have to like hold M1 for longer. If you nerfed Ruin, which is what they're doing, but also if they added charges, you're holding M1 regardless if you have Ruin or not. So just interesting counter argument from what I've heard.
Did you guys get the gist of what he was saying, or was it the only one that?
So sorry.
No. I'm sorry. I tried to listen, but I didn't quite understand like the counter argument to it.
Basically, I'm saying that if they, fuck it, I forgot what I forgot.
Are you saying like each skill check burns up the use of it or something? Or
Just forget it.
all right,
I fucking love you.
No, I'm not. I'm actually quite curious.
If it's not a good idea, then if I forgot the idea, then obviously it's not a good idea. Obviously, that's how it works. Good damn it.
All right,
So
how
was that-
about this as a concept, just from my chat? Maybe this is a little bit biased because I'm reading my wife's message, but what if gens took longer depending on how many gens are left? So the first gens would take longer, and then the last ones would be shorter. So like basically your early game already has built in like pressure because like the first. See, I don't think it can go off gens being done though, because then you can like.
99. I'm in.
Well, no, you wouldn't want to 99 them though
No,
because
if
they
you,
take
it would
longer.
be the
Oh,
it would be
'cause
the
they take
opposite of
longer.
19 it would be the
Yeah.
opposite of 99ing. You would have people stacking on them like crazy.
Yeah, you would want everyone to
And
stack.
then-
But that's actually good as a killer.
That's
You
good
want
for
people
killer,
to
yeah.
stack
yeah,
on gens.
yeah, that's very good, and it would give more value to things like prove thyself. You'd be like, oh damn, they have a prove thyself. Damn, I can't let them. I need discordance on every single one build now.
Yeah, it's true. Discordance would be insane then, but
It wouldn't. It would be yeah. It would force a sort of. It would take I think freedom away, and it would help survivors who are coordinated and really badly punish ones that are not. Because right now I'm playing solo queue, right, and I'm kind of clueless. I'm not worthless, but I'm clueless. So I do a bit of a gen, and then I do a totem, and I do a little bit of a gen, and then I finish the gen from the other person, and then I finish, and maybe we have 4 gens at 99, and it's taken us ages, but we've done it really slowly, and the team falls apart, and we're all dead. Compare that to a 4-man who's like, Gen in the Shack 99. Let's go finish it. Next up, move to the gen in the main building. All right, it's now finished. And they would breeze through the generators compared to the other ones that, you know. So I feel like that would accentuate the differences between teams that can work together and teams that are like
Yeah, it makes teamwork very heavy, and I think like one of DBD's biggest like things that makes it fun is the fact that it is, even though you're playing as a team as Survivor, it's almost like a bunch of individual 1v1 experiences. Like you can kind of wander off and do what like lone wolf things, and for the most part be okay up until like you need to unhook someone or something, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. There's really no perfect fix, but. I don't know, boys. We're running on about 2 hours of this podcast. I think it's been getting about time to wrap things up. Is there anything you guys have to say about any of the topics that we were talking about?
No, sick of talking about DVD. I just
streamed it. I think we've said everything there is to say, dude. My God.
I feel like I just put an extra 1,000 hours into the game by talking about this.
we all have way here now.
I think we've rambled a lot, and that's true. But like I've heard some ideas that I think
there were some constructive ideas, I think.
Yeah, no, I love doing this. I think this was great. I think we had some really awesome discussions. So I guess I'm going to start wrapping things up, and thank you guys so much for joining me. Let me just get your guys' links to your Twitch. I want to do this without hopefully destroying the entire overlay. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. This was honestly super fun, and I think we had a lot of good discussions. And if anyone that is watching doesn't know any of these 3, they are all fantastic people, literally some of my favorite content creators. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll have links below to their Twitch as well as their YouTube. And if you guys are watching this live, I will drop some in chat. So feel free to please go check these guys out. They're fantastic people. And thank you guys so much for joining. And
Okay.
Scott got real serious with this.
He's gone.
He's just left like that.
Now the overlay's fucked up.
Oh yeah, now the overlay's messed up. All right, that's gonna be it. Thank you guys for watching. We're getting out of here. I'll take care. See ya. I'll see you later. See ya. Bye. See ya.